Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of the MinnMax Show, a place about games, friends, and getting better and waving. My name is Ben Hansen. Thank you for being here. On this very episode, this one you're listening to right now, we're joined by one Leo Vader.
Hello. Shouts out to all our viewers watching on Peacock.
We're joined by Janet Garcia.
Hello. I'm not as funny as Leo.
We're joined by Kyle. The trick is you just repeat what Leo said, and then it seems like, yeah, we're building off it. We're just as funny. We're joined by Kyle
Funny to get that
Hilliard.
tip from a man, isn't it?
What Leo said.
Yeah, Michael Huber is here as well.
Yo, shout out to everyone watching on Hulu as well.
That's right. All of our viewers across the world, assuming there's a YouTube app within Hulu, you can watch this thing anywhere you want it. But thank you all for being here. On this very episode, we're talking about Star Wars Outlaws, Ubisoft's upcoming open world Star Wars games. And then we're going into the past to a galaxy far, far away a long time ago where a little game called Star Wars Jedi Survivor came out. Because, Leo, I'd argue the theme of this episode is second chances. Sitting back and looking at your backlog and saying, you know what? Maybe I'll give that game one more go and then it might win you over. Just like a game did recently with Leo, but we won't spoil what that is because it's coming up later in this episode. We're also going to be talking about the Triple I initiative, the indie showcase that happened on Wednesday, which was surprisingly packed. They announced a new showcase and you're like, yeah, sure. I think they looked at the arena of like a wholesome games direct. Fun stuff, no doubt about it. And then this thing came out, haymaker after haymaker. We'll break down the highlights from that, including a new Prince of Persia game. My God. Botany Manor we're going to talk about Fallout, the TV show. Some folks here have seen all of season 1, so we'll talk about that a little bit. And then second half of the show, we have some great questions submitted over there on Patreon from the community, and we're going to dive into those in a big bad way. Kyle Hilliard.
Oh,
is it
me first?
Is it true that you work at Game Informer magazine?
Yes, that's true.
That's very cool. And you recently revealed the new cover.
I don't think we ever mentioned that. Did we ever talk about
I think
that?
Game
We all have Game
Informer might come up at
roots.
some point. But you recently revealed the new cover, which is Star Wars Outlaws from Ubisoft.
Yeah, I love that cover. I think it looks awesome.
It's sweet, and that's the first one people can get a physical edition of if they subscribe directly to the magazine now. Subscription. GameInformer.com. But they also released a new trailer for Star Wars Outlaws, showing off a little bit more of the story content for what's going on with this thing. And Kyle, maybe you can shed some light on this. I don't know how everybody else is feeling about it. I am just amazed that this game is coming out August 30th, not too far away at all. And this is the same studio that just released Avatar Frontiers of Pandora? Ubisoft Massive is doing both of these? I know Ubisoft is a nebulous, confusing thing, and there's 300 studios working on these, but how is this possible?
I mean, I'm guessing it. I actually don't know. I don't have a specific answer for that. I mean, but I think it's just down to like multiple teams, right? Because it's like the Division 2 was this huge team that probably split and worked on Star Wars and Avatar.
But
I know for sure they staffed up when they were working on Outlaws because of Avatar as well. That's the only thing I know about that. Is they definitely hired a bunch of people.
Yeah, and it's wild. So the narrative director for Star Wars Outlaws is Naveed Kavari, he was a narrative director on Far Cry 6, 4, 5, Primal, Assassin's Creed Unity, Splinter Cell Blacklist. He's a writer for The Division. There we go. So a lot of backstory, a lot of Ubisoft talent converging now for Star Wars Outlaws. But Leo, did you watch this trailer? Do you have hot thoughts on this thing?
Yeah, it's a story trailer, which is never going to be the thing that gets me pumped about a game. I still, I went back and rewatched the gameplay they put out a while ago, the 10 minutes of gameplay, and that still looks pretty good. I feel like there's a lot of personality in that of like the takedown animations. She cold cocks somebody in the face and they do like the full 360 and fall down, very cartoony, like that kind of personality. But this with more lines of dialogue, there were a couple brutal moments. There was like... oh, so you're saying this mission's a death sentence? I'm sitting there eating my lunch watching it. I'm like, so when do we start? And she's like, I'm in. One of those absolute classic.
Leo, back when you used social media, I think you had a tweet or something that I think about a lot when I think about Star Wars, which is you just asked, when they say in Star Wars, I have a bad feeling about this, is that just one less line they have to write, and that's why they put it in every movie? I think about that every time that gets uttered in Star Wars. I'm like, yeah, why do they just keep saying this?
It's fun. It's the callback. Like, I think there's a lot of ambitious stuff about this game that's exciting, and then I still have that Star Wars instinct of every time they show me, hey, look, this protagonist who's a little bit Han Solo-ish. She's a little bit of a rogue. Now she's just standing in front of Han Solo, frozen in carbonite, looking at him. Like, you don't need to do it. It's hat on a hat. Or then it's like, hey, now she's encountering Jabba the Hutt. It's like, nope, don't make our universe smaller, please.
So you're Jabba the Hutt.
It's just that again and again. I do got the crate dragon on Tatooine, but all that little stuff. It's like, I don't know. I'm excited to go new places in the Outer Rim. But Huber, how you sitting with Star Wars Outlaws at this point?
Cautiously optimistic.
Okay.
I actually really like the Division 2 a lot. I love that game. I think the Division has like really good world building. And I saw that Outlaws is the same directors as Division 2.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that like the world building progression transfers over. But like Leo was saying, the main character was like kind of cringy at some parts for sure. Just like over like really emphasizing that like silly scoundrel vibe. I don't know.
And of course they're going to try to hit you with like the broadest, biggest moments to try and get like the most reaction from people. It's always hard to tell before you see the actual thing, but yeah. It seems like a type of character we are a little tired of. Yeah. If it's not written super well.
It feels like this is going to be the big fun online discourse when the game comes out, is arguing about Kay Vess, which is the character's name as a character. Like, oh, is she cringe? Is she too over the top? Everyone's already arguing about her facial animations not being up to snuff and all this. Or it's like, hey, look, it's an ambitious game. Like, not everything can be cream of the crop on that front. It's okay, everybody.
You took that on, though, is the thing. Like, so I think it's fair to like hold them to executing the thing that they set out to do. I think as far as the Star Wars of it, like that's Star Wars. Like I mean, I like Star Wars, but it's really tropey. It's really like stuff we've seen. And like as far as the, integrating stuff like Jabba the Hutt, I personally kind of like that because I'm not a Star Wars freak. Like I don't live and breathe Star Wars, so I kind of like having something to latch onto. I think as far as protagonists too, definitely giving generic, but like Cal Kestis is not an interesting character until you like, if you beat the game, like I get like, oh, you look more into like his mind and all that, but at its face, like Cal's boring as hell. Right. So it's like, I mean, would I like more intrigue from my Star Wars protagonist? Yes, but I mean, if you see that you're like, oh my God, why are they like cliche and boring? I'm like, they always like have been kind of. So I feel like if the game plays up to snuff, I don't really mind if they're a little dry.
As a relative Star Wars outsider, though, like something like Andor establishes itself as its own thing so well. I was blown away by how much I loved Andor. And that proved to me like you can do a lot within this universe that has kind of its own specific mark. And I am always hoping that the next Star Wars thing will be more like that.
I think it's tough to do within that genre too. Like I think because what you're speaking to, Leo, I think is a bit of that, like not just a narrative pivot, but like in the style of what that medium is. While this is like, oh, another crazy adventure. It's like, they seem to struggle with making that a little deeper than like, a very kind of Nathan Drake-y action adventure hero, like sort of situation. Fair.
Yeah, I'm curious if there's going to be any enthusiasm running towards Star Wars Outlaws from people who are really bummed out about like Star Wars 1313 getting canceled. Kind of like, oh, if that was focusing on the seedy underbelly of Coruscant, then it's like, hey, this is the whole pitch here is it's the golden age of the underworld taking place in that original trilogy, right? So we're getting all the different factions. You get to choose which faction to align to, but like seeing a little bit more of that world. And then, there's that canceled Star Wars TV show that was also going to focus on that a little bit. And so, there's definitely the crowd out there that really pops when they see, hey, it's the Crimson Dawn, everybody. This underground syndicate, isn't that exciting? It's like, oh, I kind of remember them for being the Darth Maul, and then I guess Emilia Clarke was with them in Solo, and there's that tiny thing. But
the Hutts get me really hyped, though. I am obsessed with the Hutts.
There's some way, Michael, that you could prove that you're a Hutt fan. Is there anything you could do to prove to us in this moment?
I have multiple Jabba the Hutt.
I don't know if there's something you could just
drinking out of a Jabba mug right now.
Oh my God!
That's what I was going for. That's what I was setting you for.
And it's filled with blood, said to be inspired by the taste of Jabba the Hutt's blood. This is too much, Hubert.
Also, I will immediately love this game if they just have pod racing. That's it.
So,
I'm just like, if they have pod racing,
So,
go.
all right, so
Let's
we're
go.
all going the complete opposite direction of like less Star Wars, and you're like, shove more Star Wars. into
Oh,
my
who's we all?
eyeballs.
I'm fine with like the basic Star Wars stuff.
Sure,
all
sure,
right,
sure.
Whatever's in the Isle of Target, that's probably mostly all I know. I know like one thing beyond the Isle of Target.
Okay.
And I'm not ashamed to say it. All
I
right.
definitely agree. Pod racing is, if anything, underutilized right now.
It
in Star Wars.
is. It's so crazy.
On the pod racing comment, I'm actually quite excited for this because like video games and Star Wars is now my only sort of avenue in, because I really have fallen off the shows and I need to watch Andor. I totally recognize that. But so like I am more forgiving of sort of dialogue in a video game space because there's other things I'm more focused on. So that's why I still enjoy the video games so much. But like on the pod racing comment, the thing that gets me even maybe more excited than like Jedi is like the fact that you can get on a speeder and just go.
Yeah.
That's like Shadows of the Empire is like my favorite Star Wars game, and it takes place in the exact same spot in the trilogy. And like my favorite thing to do that game was the speeder level. I would just play that level over and over when I was a kid, and I loved the idea of having a speeder and just driving around in a Star Wars universe. That's very enticing for me.
I do think that looks good, and especially with the, Ubisoft is under a special scrutiny when it comes to, I think, their mission structure and what it's like to explore their world.
Yeah.
So seeing that little, like, again, just story trailer. So like, oh, it looks fun to be hovering above the water because like that's inherently awesome. Will it in reality not translate in that feeling? Maybe, but that also kind of gave me something to like get excited about. I have to admit too, like I'm a sucker for the companion. I know the pet is just gift bait, but like I'd be lying if I didn't want to put a dumb hat on him. You know what I mean? Like I'm only human.
No, I get
Human.
it.
Put a poncho on him or some little.
Exactly. Like, oh my God. Like,
There's already
I'm sorry. Does that not make every game better?
Yeah.
I also feel like Star Wars. There's been really good space combat Star Wars games. Like obviously Rogue Squadron and Squadrons and stuff.
Yeah.
But I feel like they've never had good space combat in like a ground-based game as well. Like Star Wars Battlefront is obviously a little different. 'Cause it's a big multiplayer battle game, but like I feel like the combination of both in this could be really fun.
No, I'm totally with you. And going back and watching that original gameplay reveal again, it's like, God, I forgot, because it looks so ambitious for just Ubisoft open world spanning multiple Star Wars planets, and then you throw in also there's going to be space combat. It's like they are biting off so much here. And the fact that it wasn't revealed that long ago, and it's like, this almost looks too good to be true, we'll see. And the fact that they followed it up with the next PR push of being like, by the way, August this year, get ready. It's like,
wow.
All right, they're calling the shot. If it all is as good as they're showing, it's like this could be one of the biggest games of the year. And I'm trying to work through my inner skepticism of disappointment based on Ubisoft early showings, going back to the first Watch Dogs reveal. Like I still have that energy from Ubisoft reveals in my heart, and I'm trying to purify it.
Yeah. Have they said if it's seamless ground to space traversal? Because I'm curious if seeing the reaction to Starfield, they took some time to make sure you could do that. That seems to be really important to people. Not that that's the summation of people's problems with that game.
Yeah.
I had that question for Brian Shea, who wrote the cover story for Game Informer, and it sounds like it's somewhere. It's not Starfield, right? It's closer to Jedi, which is like you get in a vehicle and then you sort of witness the whole traversal, but it's not No Man's Sky. Like it's not that.
Yeah.
Right.
So somewhere in between there.
Yeah, I'm curious about, them talking about, it seems like they're making a big deal about like, oh, which syndicate do you side with? Are you going to piss off the Pikes here? Are you, Huber, can you join the Huts? Can you make sweet love to Jabba the Hutt? Whatever you want to do over there.
You like don't leave that first area of the game where Jabba clearly is going to be.
Get another odd job for me, Jabba? Come on, just one bit of DLC. I'll take anything. More quests, please.
Did you guys ever play Star Wars Galaxies?
No.
Oh, it was like the MMO back in the day. And like to get to Jabba was like one of the hardest things ever. You had to keep doing missions for like people in like out front and then like a little more into the palace and a little more into the palace. So I feel like it's been a long time since we've been able to play a game with like Jabba in it. I don't know. I feel like it's been a while. What's old is new again.
I was not expecting this. I mean, I kind of was expecting this much Jabba talk based on like your content online, but I'm still a little surprised by how into the weeds we are.
But I'm curious how much branching content they can make. If it's also in the first gameplay, it's like you can choose to bribe the Empire or not. It's like this level of open world design with all these different options of who you're siding with and all this stuff, this thing could be huge. So I'm very curious about Star Wars Outlaws, but we'll find more about it August 30th, or you can just subscribe to Game Informer. That's an option too, Kyle, I'd argue.
There you go.
I don't want to be too pushy about
press
it.
buttons for you.
I wonder
that button over there.
Oh,
I wonder too, because Division 2 had so much content and so much like post game.
Yeah.
So I wonder if like being able to just put all those resources into like a single player game is easier, or not easier, but like if that game will be massive.
Yeah, that is interesting. I'm trying to think of those examples of studios that have been doing live service and then they focus just on nice single player content with an ending. Like if that just feels like, oh, this is easy mode. But you know.
I mean, I feel like there aren't really, other than like the ones that are like very clearly short, I feel like Ubisoft doesn't really make short games. Yeah. Like Far Cry took me a million years to finish because it just kept going.
Even Prince of Persia, a Metroid game, I spent like just under 30 hours or something.
Yeah, and that's their short game.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Rayman, like the old Rayman games are maybe like the shortest thing they kind of would put out there catalog wise, but
Valiant Hearts or something. Really yeah.
Well, Frontiers of Pandora actually ends 20% in, but nobody has checked yet.
Can you imagine? It's like, oh, it's actually not long. Yeah, so I think the issue here is like, is it going to have that problem that modern, because I didn't play the older Far Cry games, that modern Far Cry has, where even if it's fun, like I like the gruesome stealth takedowns in Far Cry, it's fun to send an alligator to tear someone in half.
Of course.
Like, you know, but after 50 hours, it's like another alligator tear in half moment. Like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah,
totally.
Hubert, what got you back into Star Wars Jedi Survivor?
I was patient with this game. I am obsessed with patches, video game patches.
Okay.
Like I love patches. I'm obsessed.
What does that mean? Just you like better games? How do you define that?
Like when a patch comes out for a game I'm playing or like gonna play, I get excited. I'm just like, oh, would they fix? Would they change? You know, would they tweak? So Jedi Survivor, when it came out, it had technical issues, and that held it back for a lot of people. Even when I started it, when it came out, it was just like kind of choppy. I was like, oh, I'm going to wait like a little bit. I thought it would be a pretty short amount of time until they got it perfect.
Yeah.
Then they patched it again. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start over and play it again. This is like a month or two after it was out. And I was like, oh, it's still kind of choppy. And there were other games out. I was like, okay, I'll put it back down because I'm like really invested in Star Wars. And I love, Jedi Fallen Order, and I love that actor Cameron Monaghan. I know, Janet, you're like, oh, Calcassus is so boring, but I love that actor.
Love that actor. Wow. Okay, just because like the Gotham stuff.
Gotham and Shameless season.
Sure.
Shameless is very good. That's a good show. Yeah.
Yeah. So finally, after so many months, it was like in October or November, something like 7 or 8 months later, it took them. They finally patched Jedi Survivor, and it is nearly perfect now. And then I just started playing, and I can't stop. I'm just so addicted to this game now. It's so much fun. And I think I had played a lot of games that have come out this year. So I was like, okay, I need a break from like this year's games. I'm just going to like go and retreat into a game from last year that like not a lot of people are talking about right now. There's no pressure to play it and no discourse. I'm just going to chill out and enjoy Star Wars.
No takes. Don't have to be
no takes.
Yeah, God forbid, please don't
Finally
share
free.
any takes on it. Yeah. This is a take-free podcast this time around. No, that's the thing. It's like I was thinking of a Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and it's like, did it kind of get Spider-Man, where it's like no doubt a great game, but just like it wasn't quite over that threshold to be like in any real contention for Game of the Year stuff, so that everybody just moves on too quickly. But then you look at it in retrospect, and it's like, Jesus Christ, no, that game was awesome.
What was it? Here's the Kingdom Blast radius.
So it was August is when it released.
May.
Yes.
Close-ish. Tears of the Kingdom so long.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it feels much better going back to it in retrospect, Huber, than you're expecting.
So much better. And I'm actually just blown away by the platforming in it. I think that has surprised me the most. And just how the Metroidvania-ness of like, now you have this move, now you have this move, now you have this. Like I got an air dash, and then I got like the electrical droid BD thing that you can like change. You like shoot a little thing and a platform will raise, and then you get another force power that can raise things. So I'm like, wow, this platforming and exploration is actually super good. That surprised me the most.
It took me like, because I played it and then fell off of it and then returned to it in December. It was like my mop up. Well, let me finish this game of the year. And it was like at like the 40% mark of the game that I started getting Prince of Persia vibes. And I was like, oh, this is now when you're like pulling out platforms and wall running, and it just took a while to get there.
Yeah. I think it's such a big step up from that first game, just in like the little things, like the telegraphing, like how you move around. Like I don't think the first one was bad, but it definitely had it also had performance issues at launch, but it had like more, I think, design rough edges than this one does. I feel like the map maybe could still, it's constantly a moving target, that map, you know, but they're moving in the right direction. This is like, I'm so jealous, Huber, that you're already like going back to it, because like this has been on my go back list forever too, because like much like what y'all refer to, I think the platforming is great. It design wise, in a good way, it feels like a PS2 or PS3 game, but with the sensibilities of the modern era and the depth of the modern era with the combat. So for me, as someone that like loved, you know, kind of grew up in that era, because then people think I'm like 15 years older. Like, but you know, I spent a lot of time playing like PS2, PS3, and I love platformers, and I love that blend of platforming integrated with other stuff. You know, again, it's why ReCore RIP was such a L for me, because it had that. And it's like, well, I can just squint my eyes, and this is basically ReCore, but with lightsabers.
Dude, you know, you're so right. It does kind of feel like Jack and Daxter, like Ratchet and Clank a little bit.
Right.
Like old school vibe for sure.
It's the pulse. And I like love like pull in the platforms that like shake and then drop. That's like such a that era. They're like, what if we're gonna put hooks everywhere, and everyone would just swing around. And so I feel like swinging around that little pole is one of the best feelings in video games.
Any pole swing?
The pole swing into an air dash.
Ooh,
oh yeah.
Now we're talking. Kyle, how are you feeling about the Jedi series future at Respawn? Now that Stig, the director of these first two Jedi games, has left. Like, it's an interesting spot for Respawn to be in, because I don't know who the person is that's stepping up at Respawn yet to direct this third game. You know, they recently had the Mandalorian first-person shooter that Respawn was working on. That was rumored, and now that's canceled, apparently. But yeah, what do you think about the future of this thing? Like, do you have faith that they can bring it home for the final entry in this trilogy of Jedi stuff?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I mean, because Stig was always kind of an outside person anyway, right? From the beginning? Was that fair to say?
Well, he wasn't there
for Jedi?
Yeah, wasn't there for the founding of Respawn, so yeah.
Yes, I mean, but maybe that's not fair to say. I mean, he was there for quite a long time. But I mean, it is... with the exception of maybe Apex Legends, I mean, it's probably Respawn's most successful thing, period, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I think they are confident about it and will take good care of it. I'm not pessimistic about a third Jedi game. I'm optimistic.
Yeah.
But are we gonna get Cal Kestis into a live action Star Wars show or movie? That is what we need.
Can you imagine? I feel like if I were Dominic, is that actor's name? I wouldn't be able to...
Cameron Monaghan.
No, I'm going to go with Dominic Monaghan. It just makes me feel better. So if I was this Cameron fella, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. I'd be waiting for my phone to ring every freaking day for like, is it going to be Kathleen Kennedy? Is she calling me to put me in live action Star Wars? It's like, it's right there. And it's, look, this is projecting too much. It feels like the ultimate slap in the face if they don't bring them in. Because like, dude, we have your actual likeness. You should be fully ready to go. We are working in this timeline in the Star Wars universe so much, but you know, we'll pass. We're good. We don't need another Jedi to complicate our storytelling. It's so wild that it's right there and they haven't done it yet.
I mean, he's the star of he's the protagonist of two Star Wars games. Do you really think he's like, oh, that's not enough? I should 100%. Be in the shows.
Yeah, how many content actors are out there, Kyle?
He also had that really good commercial with Mark Hamill. Do you remember that one?
Oh, that's right.
It came out. That was a fun one.
That was sweet.
I was wondering about why. Oh, please shut up.
Just shout out to the sound of Jedi Survivor. It's some of the best sound I've ever heard in my life. Like getting an execution kill with a lightsaber, it just like gets so loud and impactful. Like some of my favorite just noises ever in the game. Yeah.
I was wondering why we don't see Star Wars stuff with create a character things these days. Am I wrong? Are you able to do that in much Star Wars games?
SWTOR.
SWTOR?
KOTOR SWOTOR.
These days, meaning more recent than 25 years ago.
Wake up, Grandpa, it's over. A long time ago. It's going to come back and you're going to be disappointed because you liked your life better back then. It's not even related to the game. So let's get over it.
Star Wars is a franchise that's like, we have very specific characters that we define and have interesting art. You know, like we define who they are and we define how they look. Like that's, to me, is very important to Star Wars. And I wonder if that's one of the reasons they don't really do a lot of character creator stuff.
I imagine the reason they might do that, besides like the lore reason that Kyle pointed out, which I think reigns true, because everyone wants to just make Shrek in every game. And they're like, we don't really think that's Star Wars-y. But also I think back to,
kind of
on Bonus Pod, Haley was talking about talks she went to at GDC. And one of them was the like facial animation talk on Baldur's Gate 3. And one thing they mentioned was in the create a character, they didn't have just infinite sliders because they felt like they would have to do so much additional animation work to make all of those scenes line up perfectly. So it's better just to have that more limited so they could really focus on like fine tuning what they have. So I imagine, especially in something that has so much like going under the hood that maybe, doesn't have the flashiest animation work already to begin with, that might be like pushing it to edges that it doesn't need to go to, that also isn't in service of the story. So I feel like it's kind of the perfect storm of not having a create a character. But I do think in the larger Star Wars lore, it would be nice if you could create a character, because there is a lot of Star Wars lore goes against itself, but whatever. Like there have been moments of who could be like the next one? It could be this kid with the broom, right? Like, and so the idea of crafting a character, I think, can fit in with the lore, but I see why it might not fit into the lore of these games and the technological limitations of these projects.
I do think the ultimate test is, if you remember, Leo, they announced that the former art director at Firaxis working on the XCOM games, Greg Rorsch, I think his name is, he is working at a new studio called Bit Reactor, and they're working with Respawn on a tactics Star Wars game. So, if the pitch is Star Wars XCOM, like if you can't create your own characters in that, then we're going to know that Lucasfilm is really cracking down on that as a broad concept. So that'll be the proof in the pudding there, I suppose.
Okay.
Star Wars.
Does anyone else have trouble figuring out when the hell in the timeline everything Star Wars is?
I needed to think.
Anytime something it's like in between 1 and 2, in between 4 and 5, in between 4 and 6, like where the hell?
The numbers also are their own problem. It's like the new old ones of the old. Like,
honestly, I still have that little bit. Whereas I was talking about Star Wars Outlaws, it's like, oh, that's right, this isn't an EA game. So like figuring out which publishers are making which games and which timeline is that in. Like, okay, so Star Wars Jedi Survivor, that's EA, and that's going to be about 20 years before the timeline of when Outlaws happened. So those probably wouldn't cross-pollinate, but technically everything should be canonical at this point through Lucasfilm, so maybe they would have characters. Like, that would be cool if a character from Jedi Survivor popped up in Outlaws as like an older version of it. But
Old Cal.
Can you imagine? Kyle, do you want to put money down? Would you be willing to bet $100 that Boba Fett is not going to appear in Star Wars Outlaws?
That he will not appear?
Yeah, I'm asking, will you make that bet with me?
No.
Smart.
Too much money. Let's go down to like $5, then we can start making.
We'll just forget. At that point, what's the point, dude?
So you don't
give
money bags? He's like, why don't we just bet nothing?
I should.
We all know that Boba Fett was busy fighting Dash Rendar during this time frame. He is a boss fight in Shadows of the Empire.
He couldn't do anything else. I get it. Okay. This Triple I Initiative Showcase. We should dive into the sucker. Janet and I streamed our reactions. You can check that out if you're curious about it. But it's like, hey, it's a mysterious showcase from a bunch of large indie developers, and they compiled a hell of a show here. They even teased it ahead of time, as Janet noted, for saying, like, look, everybody knows showcases. It was very Deadpool-esque, tongue-in-cheek, self-aware with little pop-ups and stuff. But they said, hey, the key to a good showcase is you start big and you end big. And then they put their money where their mouth was again by opening with Slay the Spire 2.
Whoa.
Yeah, huge. So that's coming 2025 apparently for that. And we're talking about that, like the Slay the Spire fan base.
I think Michael's having a heart attack. Is this how you learned this?
Why? The only thing I know they showed was Darkest Dungeon 2. That's it. I was waiting for the
Also, if you do have a heart attack, do you want us to keep recording or stop recording?
Yeah,
it's just always good to know.
The show must go on.
Great.
Just like the paramedics are coming in and we're like still taking those donos. Like, all right, I got you. I'm the same way.
So not too many details there, but Slay the Spire, I mean, it's one of those things that's like, the fan base of people who claim it's one of the greatest games of all time, if not the greatest game of all time, has been growing since it launched, and now it's probably like tens of millions of people being like, duh, Slay the Spire is the best thing that's ever been made if you like rogue card games. And so this is one of those that is, I think, going to be gargantuan when it comes out in 2025.
I think it's such a perfect time for it too, because it's like the rising tide lifts all boats or whatever, like with Balatro being such a hit.
Totally.
I think a lot of people who are like, I never do card games, but I was into Balatro, are be looking at like, everyone hypes Slay the Spire. There's a second one, like, so it's kind of the perfect time for it, I think, to come out, which is interesting because I think so often we talk about the opposite of like saturating the market with the same style, but I think this is so niche that it getting hot is gonna like really make it pop off even more than it did the first time.
Yeah, for sure. What speaking of pop, take a big sip of that water, Janet. What do you think was the biggest pop for you throughout this showcase?
I hate to. I don't want to pick the Prince of Persia thing because it's like the most normie thing in the indie showcase.
Let's talk about it.
But it probably is the biggest pop just because, again, I like to jump. If I get to jump in a game and it's like one of the main mechanics, I'm gonna do it. So yeah, this
Also,
is an
the acronym
action.
is pop.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Oh my god!
True.
Like, okay. Anyway, it just keeps getting better. It just keeps getting better.
Yeah,
This
so
is from. You said it was the Dead Cells team, right?
Yeah, so it's Evil Empire. It's a confusing thing where that studio that was working on Dead Cells was like, okay, we're going to split and we're going to work on new stuff, but then Evil Empire, you're going to stay behind and work on Dead Cells and the Return to Castlevania DLC and all that stuff that came out last year. And now it's confusing, but now that team that made Dead Cells or was maintaining Dead Cells, they're now making a new Prince of Persia game called The Rogue Prince of Persia. So a Prince of Persia rogue game, not to be confused with Prince of Persia The Lost Crown, which just was released earlier this year and was also a great 2D Prince of Persia game. Kyle, how say you about the Rogue Prince of Persia?
I'm as excited as Janet. I was really surprised because they reached out and had some like preview opportunities, and that's how I learned about it. And that was my reaction too. I was like, wait, because it was pitched as like a roguelite Prince of Persia. I was like, oh, so a mode in the Lost Crown.
Right.
Or they're just going to take that art style. But it's like, no, this is... And I asked them, I got a chance to speak with Evil Empire, and they said it's its own canon. It's not connected to any other Prince of Persia games in any way. They sold the game to Ubisoft when Lost Crown was in alpha, so they've been like developing at the same time, and both studios were like playing the other games to like make sure that they were like separate enough and stuff like that. That's interesting. And yeah, and I got to play it, and it's like it is very Dead Cells in a complimentary way.
Nice.
Like it is Dead Cells, but then they've added like wall running, which is really cool because the way it works is like it's a 2D game, but if there's a wall in the background, you can fully run on it horizontally, vertically, diagonally, and it kind of like it's functionally like works a little like a double jump, right? Like that's what you're using it for, is to get that little extra boost.
Okay.
But it feels a lot different. It feels really unique, and I really like it a lot. It feels really cool.
Yeah. Janet was saying it looked pretty weighty, but it just physics feel pretty Dead Cells-y. That's the one-to-one?
Yeah, I mean, even I didn't play a ton of Dead Cells. I never beat it. I think I've gotten through like 2 or 3 of the bosses, and I played a lot of the Castlevania DLC.
Yeah.
But like that strategy where it's like if you're above enemies, you like slam down on them and stuff, like that's totally here. Like that's absolutely here. The way you like clamber onto platforms feels kind of similar. Like, and the way like you find new weapons and decide if you want to upgrade them and stuff like that. Like that, the UI looks very similar to Dead Cells.
Quick question too. I don't know if you know the answer to this, Kyle, but what does the progression look like? Like it is a roguelite, but is it like I have to get to just the whole, like do you have any sense of like what that flow looks like in terms of is it just one shot? Is it like per boss? Like
I mean, it looks like Dead Cells. I asked them if there was going to be permanent upgrades, and their response was like, we're working on it. That's like it's going into early access on May 15th, and it's going to be the first third of the game is going to be available. And their response was very like non-committal of like, probably we don't know what that is yet. But like right now, I mean, I know I've said it over and over, and I apologize, but like, if you can imagine Dead Cells, it feels a lot like that. That's what the progression looks like. Yeah.
It's going to be funky to see, a Prince of Persia game in early access because it's launching May 14th. I mean,
That is wild.
we're getting 2 Prince of Persia games within 5 months of each other after how long of a drought? Like it's
I feel like people aren't going to play them because they didn't play the last one. I know they're different teams, totally different games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Lost Crown was so good, and I feel like it it just kind of went out there.
But but Last Crown, they wouldn't have been roping in that Dead Cells audience. And if they can use that Dead Cells pedigree to get more people into the Rogue Prince of Persia, and then they can say, what's this? There's another Prince of Persia game that's not in early access. I can check that out. Maybe it's a weird loop where people can swing on that bar and then swing all the way back to Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, Janet.
We'll see.
Look, it's a stretch.
It's kind of my business. Like I'm just on the outside looking in, but it's like, I hate when a game is really good. And I don't know if this game is going to be really good. It looks good. Yeah. But it sucks when a game is really good and everyone's like, sorry.
Worst feeling.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
I love the Jake Gyllenhaal Prince of Persia too much.
Right. People can't.
Actually, what he's wearing sort of looks like the Jake Gyllenhaal Prince, honestly.
Okay.
So there you go.
The support of Dead Cells for so many years was amazing. So I wonder how long they'll be cooking on this Prince of Persia game.
Yep.
And especially, you said it's going into early access too.
Yep.
Yeah, but that'll be a pretty long road, I assume.
Yeah. Kyle, you mentioned the Return to Castlevania DLC. Yeah. Konami has just been making deals left and right, apparently, because in this showcase, they announced that there's Vampire Survivors DLC, which you think would be Castlevania DLC, but no. It's Contra DLC. Coming to Vampire Survivors.
Castlevania, you wouldn't be able to tell. That's the problem.
Well, that is indeed the problem, because V Rising also has Castlevania DLC coming to it now, which I watched that trailer and maybe I'm not dorky enough to pick up on that stuff. Did you see that yet, Huber, the V Rising stuff? Maybe as a Castlevania fan, your eyes would bulge out of your skull if you saw the stuff they're adding to V Rising, but it kind of
I have not.
Okay, all right. But it's weird that Konami, it's like, we're not going to make a new Castlevania game, but let's just dish out this DLC. And hey, we kind of made a new Contra game, so Konami's alive-ish and well-ish.
Kind of. That's like a whole ass Contra game, right?
Oh yeah. The Galuga? Oh, Galuga's big, man. The biggest thing for me is dorky, believe it or not, but at the AAA Initiative thing, they showed this game, and it looks like a RTS survival-ish game. Not like a competitive RTS from what I can tell, but something in kind of that banished arena, I suppose. But it looked a little bit like Age of Empires. I was very on board. I was like, okay, this is all I want. Just let me build up a little town, protect against waves of enemies coming in. This seems great. I'm glad there's no fantasy or anything popping in here. And then the walls are kicked down and dinosaurs come through. And I am 100% on board. It's called Dinolords, apparently.
Great name.
Yeah, it is truly a fantastic name for what they're working with here.
Hansen likes Age of Empires meets dinosaurs? Mind blown.
I know. I'm sorry, it's so simple and stupid. I feel like I've fallen for this trick 1,000 times with like dinosaur video game, and I feel like 8 out of 10 times I'm disappointed in some early access dinosaur turd that never really makes a big splash. But this one, I feel like I have high hopes for Dinolords.
Haven't we made this Show Plus yet? Like Ben's Dino Adventures or something?
We have, but no one votes for it. I do think we've tried a couple of...
You got to pull up with your burner account and just start, swinging the pole.
Let me have Dino Adventures, please. But yeah, Dinolords coming later. I'm excited about. Leo, they showed a new trailer for Streets of Rogue 2.
Yeah, I was waiting for you guys to take down for a minute.
Chat was like, why is anyone talking that isn't Leo talking about this game?
Yeah.
So apologies for that.
Leo likes Streets of Rogue. Who would have thought?
There you go.
Is the game going to be okay then? Or is this like not, is it immune to your kiss of death? Like, what's the situation?
First one did pretty well, and I got into it because it did pretty well. So I gave it a nice wide berth for that. But yeah, hopefully I don't screw this one over. The trailer looks really good. I really did just watch it while we were talking. Yeah. It doesn't... If there's one concern, it's that all the classes they show are the same as were in the first one. It seems like a lot of the items, too, is like everything getting ported to be slightly prettier and work in an open world, which is cool. But I am really excited to see what new types of characters they add and stuff. I did like there's an interaction with a dog and you select between pet and ride. And then it cuts to the character riding this dog down the street. And interesting little thing is you're now trying to overthrow the president. And the first one, you're overthrowing the mayor. And one way to win was to get elected as mayor. But now that it's open world, it's the president. And yet there are still interactions when you're talking to mobsters in this trailer that are like pay money to influence the mayoral election. So the idea that there are mayors within this grand country that is governed by the president. And if you're getting elected, presumably you like have to get elected mayor first, or it really helps. Like, that kind of little detail just gets me more and more excited.
Yeah, if you don't remember Streets of Rogue, it's the overhead 2D systems focus thing. Leo said it was his most anticipated game of 2024. Huber, Leo, do you think Huber would be into this? Do you think like the Hitman love of just systems, immersive elements would carry over to Streets of Rogue 2? Is this going to be up his alley in any way?
Did you play the first one? Or no?
Barely. It's like River City Ransom kind of, right? Like
it kind of looks like that. Yeah.
It definitely looks like that, but with a lot more depth that shows itself eventually. I think. How much are you tickled when you can talk your way through something, or otherwise like non-violently?
Love it. Love that.
I think it's for you.
And you said mobsters. As you know, I love mobsters. That's why I love the Huts.
You can
the Hut's just a crime boss.
You can recruit them, or they'll mug you on the street, or you can play as one.
Awesome.
Mobster your way.
Yeah, this showcase, it really had everything for everybody because, Kyle, we were just talking about on the podcast, but they announced Undermine 2, your favorite rogue game of all time. Now they have a big sequel coming here.
Yeah, which co-op, right? Is the
it seems like the big hook is co-op, and they
did they also, for my purposes, have a hook that like maybe an asterisk in the corner that was like, "Don't worry, you can play this by yourself."
Yeah, it was big text overlaying.
Dude, I'll play with you. I would totally play this.
I'm busy that day.
Kyle's like I said what I said. No, when exactly.
Yeah, Huber, you can't do it. Everybody, I know at Easy Allies, you all like to play games together and stuff. We're not really into that over here at MinnMax. It's not. We haven't gotten to that level yet, I don't think. But
can you write down no-op for Usual Plus?
No-op.
Yeah.
Single-player co-op games.
Yeah, just.
Oh my God, that's such a good idea, Leo.
Hang on, let me write this down.
But yeah, Undermine is truly the game that like broke the barrier for me for that genre. Like then I played Returnal and Hades and stuff like that, but Undermine for some reason, it was so unlike me too, where I like just got a code and I was like, I guess I'll try this, and it like hooked me like immediately. It was weird.
Yeah,
I'm very excited for the sequel.
God, they had the weirdest announcement. Janet, do you remember during that where they just said, by the way, Palworld Arena, moving on?
Yeah.
It's like, what, Palworld announcement? Like the biggest game of the year? And like it's just a quick mention. And
a big game.
I mean, has anything outsold Palworld Arena yet this year?
I mean, if you wanted to define biggest by sales, then sure.
I do. That's all
right, well, I guess you do this. So yeah, sure, biggest game of the year.
Fair.
But it was just a confusing mention of like, there's something called Palworld Arena coming. There was a game that Huber.
Well, are you going to share your conspiracy theory about that?
Oh, it's not for public consumption. No, it was such a quick thing. I was like, I wonder if like Keighley has it locked down for a bigger blowout during Summer Game Fest or something, and there's Keighley like, okay, you can tease
Palworld
it.
is Keighley core for sure.
Very
Oh my
much
God, what
so.
a good branding. Should we also, is it messed up if we make that into Show Plus 2? Will he be insulted if he's like, why are you playing these really specific games?
Trying to guess Keighley's taste. Let people vote on which games they think Keighley would like because he never really shares.
Well, it's more like what he shows. Because like, I don't know, maybe in private he's like, cranking the play date. I don't know what he's doing back there. I don't follow him around, but
yeah, that's disgusting.
Cranking the play date.
Can't say that on this show.
No, I love
the whole
it.
shtick of the hardware. Anyway,
their whole marketing should be like, you don't play the play date, you crank the play date.
that was the market. Like, come on.
Did you see the
I feel
Super
like
Bowl
that
commercial?
Does anyone read the paper? Like, come on. Yeah, it was like a really quick flash of the pan thing. Like, probably the briefest thing we saw. I guess we'll have to see if you're reading the tea leaves right on that one.
We'll see. Hubert, this is why you're an impressive individual. I assume for 1,000 other reasons, but I remember at some point Cat Quest came up on the Easy Allies podcast, and you're like, I played and beat Cat Quest 1 and 2. It's like, who is playing and beating Cat Quest 1 and 2?
Dude, no, Cat Quest is amazing.
What do you think Cat Quest, Ben?
Promise. This game is so delightful. It is charming. The progression is so addicting. The combat is really just like snappy and simple. And the aesthetic, just the open world look of this game is so cozy. This game is just like a sleeper under the radar, has no business being as good as it is. Cat Quest rips.
It feels like iOS trash. I feel there's just from the name. With all due respect,
are you
Cat
serious?
Quest.
Wait, do you really not know Cat Quest like that? Like,
I don't
Cat
know.
Quest has been doing stuff forever.
Good.
I have not played it to like Huber. You're like, you are the cat, you know, you're doing the quest. I have only played it a little bit, but yeah, it's got that like, you know what it reminds me of almost? Oh my God, what is it? Behemoth made those games where it's like the little co-op-y ones where you're just kind of like slashing your way through the levels. God, I'm blanking. Yes, it kind of has like that Castle Crashers energy to it, but I think maybe a little more. I don't know if I want to say refined. Again, I didn't play. You know, Michael, you can speak to that more than I can, but it has that kind of dopamine that you get from that, you know? As you can't stand Nobody Saves the World and not respect Cat Quest. I get if you don't like it, but like, yeah, this is like, it's hot in the streets.
Okay, like, Jesus, all right.
Dopamine rush the game, for sure. You're going into little dungeons.
Controversies noted. It's also playable on the Tesla. It's like one of the few games that's on there. Yeah, Cat Quest is like in the streets.
Wait, okay. Literally in the streets because of a Tesla? This is why you think it's a big deal, because you drive a Tesla around and you play Cat Quest.
First of all, I don't have a license, okay? So I don't drive.
Right.
Second of all, no, I just like, it's just slightly amusing. It's like, I get that you haven't played it or like you don't think it looks good, but like, it's definitely like been around. Like, people know Cat Quest.
Elon Musk knows Cat Quest. No one else knows Cat Quest.
Okay, first of all, I don't think Elon's curating the games, but
oh, I guarantee he is.
Can you imagine? He's like, these are my favorite indies I've ever played. He's really into Vampire Survivors and Stardew.
He shared his Cat Quest build and everybody dunked on him on Twitter. It was funny.
Cat Quest 2, they added the dogs. They added a dog.
Yeah.
Cat Quest 2, you can like switch back and forth between the cat and the dog. And then this one, 3 is like pirates, right? This is the pirate one. Mm-hmm. So, oh my God, I'm so pumped. And it's like not too long too. You have this big open world. It's like just long enough to get really invested in like leveling up and getting like really good gear. Cause there's like, you know, you get your armor and your weapons and your skill points or whatever. So it's like just big enough to really make that stuff matter.
I'm into it.
But it's like you'll beat it in like, you know, 8 to 10 hours or whatever.
I love that.
Leo, you seem awestruck.
I am seeing that it's the same publisher as Pacific Drive, and they co-published Sifu.
And they did
published Chia.
Yeah, Kepler Interactive.
Oh, Kepler.
It's
a Kepler.
I know Jenny and she works at Kepler Interactive, but
Cat Quest 1 2 also on big sale right now, $3 and $4 on Steam.
God damn.
Yeah, they definitely give hidden gem to me. Like I've just kind of been too lazy to like play them through all the way, and then I think I don't remember was the first one co-op. I think that's another thing that's kind of been like, oh, and then
I think the second one.
Exactly. So I'm kind of like, oh, I'll just get into, I'll jump in on Cat Quest 3. So yeah, this has definitely been on my radar. Some of that missed really diving into the other two.
That's sweet. Stuff we missed from the showcase, Janet, you wanted to shout out?
Yeah, I'm optimistic or curious about hearing more about, the title of this is RKGK/Rakugaki.
Rakugaki. It was a cool reveal trailer, but a little bit confusing with what the gameplay
unfortunately, it was so cinematic. I really didn't get a good sense of the game, like what the gameplay will look like. But it is a single player 3D platformer that has like facets of like graffiti integrated. Not sure if that's like you're doing the graffiti or cleaning the graffiti. Like I don't really know because they didn't really get into that. But I'm always excited to see more stuff in like the platforming space. Yeah, and there definitely was a lot of strategy or management sim games.
Yep, city building type stuff. Yeah, seemed like a big gap.
Kind of maybe too many. They kind of bled into each other, but I do think Let's School seems cool for that just because you are like managing a school, and I enjoy managing schools because like I like school because I'm a nerd. So I don't know. So that seems, of those, I'm most interested
the
in
Persona hype.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We're just
going back to school, you know. Peaked in school vibes, but for games.
Yeah. What if your school was inside of a giant mansion in the year 1890, Janet? How would you feel about that?
I wouldn't feel good, I don't think.
What if it was covered with a bunch of plants and a bunch of puzzles that you had to figure out what was going on?
I would feel good about that.
Oh, good. It's a game called Botany Manor that's out everywhere now. I started this thing. Janet, how much have you played of Botany Manor?
I beat it.
Oh, Jesus, awesome.
It's really short.
Okay, what do you think about this? I guess before we even get into that, we should set the scene. It's first-person puzzle game, a little Myst-esque. What genre am I missing here, Janet?
I would say it's like a walking sim puzzle game.
Okay, yeah.
I've heard Witness thrown around.
Witness-esque in some ways, sure.
Yeah, with the art especially, but I will say it's not like, when I think Witness, I'm thinking like, okay, open your third eye and then Google the answer, you know? Like, this is not nearly like hard like how the Witness is at all. It's very like fairly simple puzzle game.
Yeah.
What's your love for botany and or manners before you played this?
Yeah. I think I'm open to manners, not gonna lie. Yeah, I kind of have to put the eat the rich aside and just enjoy walking around the house. Like, sorry, like I gotta put it aside just to enjoy the house. I like walking around manners. That's probably my favorite part of Resident Evil is just walking around like bespoke areas. And I'm like, hope nothing kills me because I really want to look at this lamp, you know? So
yeah,
definitely high on manner. And Bonnie's been growing. I think after in the age of like strange horticulture and being a potion craft stan, I'm like, something's in these flowers. So the name Botany Manor, it's like, I'm sad, you know?
Strong IP.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And the game is?
I think it's good.
Okay.
It is very, and when I say that, like I'm working on a review and I'm probably gonna land on like 3 out of 5 for good. I think it's a little shy of great just because it's not like, oh my God, guys, like I need you to play this.
Yeah.
But it is very good. Like I struggle to imagine someone playing it and not really enjoying it if they like puzzles. Like, again, you might be like, it was kind of easy or it was kind of basic. But other than that aspect, like getting to solve the stuff, the way it scales is very nice. And I think if you're like a cozy gamer, you like walking around like chilled out environments and kind of, you can pick up the duck and then rotate it around, like, which is classic walking sim sensibilities. Like you will enjoy that. Like this game is full of, do you want to walk around the grass and like read a letter? Ooh, on the letter's a stamp. Maybe it's a hint.
Right.
See, like if that speaks to you, you're going to eat this up. It is really well executed, I think.
Love it. Botany Manor. It's out damn near everywhere. Is it on Game Pass? I know they're showing it at Xbox.
It is.
Okay.
I guess the last thing I want to speak to, just to give people more of a sense of what the game entails and like some of the things I think the game does well, is you have like a book, very classic game design, like that's your map, other things like that. But something that's really fun is you are interacting with different items and different notes throughout the game to gain information on how to grow different plants. That's the whole game. You're researching like, oh, how do I grow this certain sunflower or whatever? And you're picking up stuff that gives you the information. The game is maybe like 4+ hours to beat.
Okay.
It's 5 chapters. The first chapter goes very fast. It's like the tutorial. The second one goes pretty quick, and 3, 4, and 5 are a little slower. And the first 2 are very easy because, like, let's say they give you 3 clues, and in your book you can like select the empty clue slot and then slot in a clue. But for the first 2 chapters, it's like, that one paper you found? That's the answer. And like it's very like very simple.
Yeah.
But then they grow that really nicely into 3, no pun intended, where they have, okay, now you have 3 plants to deal with, and you're getting the clues in a different order for like where they relate to the plants. So that's when you have to start like really deducing, thinking about where they fit in. And what's really nice about this, again, if you're looking for hardcore, I want my mind to bend, Botany Manor probably won't do that for you. But if you just enjoy the process of puzzling, I think that will be satisfying because it's nice that it has those rails of, okay, I can slot in all my clues. When I slot all the clues correctly, it does a nice little like animation and sound. Ooh. It's like, cool, I know I have all the information I need. I think the only things, and this kind of goes into why I think it's, good and not great. I think there's a little bit of unintended friction in the game, and things like when you gather the clues, you cannot reference the clues within your notebook. They are all still in the environment. So it's stuff like I found myself taking out my phone and taking pictures of documents a lot because I'm like, I don't want to have to memorize.
That is a weird thing in a game when you have to do that.
This thing. And, everyone, designs differently, and maybe they wanted you to feel like you were more immersed. But, I think back to, again, like pulling from that GDC stuff, I went to a lot of talks on difficulty. And one thing people brought up was you always want your difficulty to be like purposeful. Like what you don't want is players to run into unintended difficulty. Like the thing they're struggling with is not the thing that you wanted them to struggle with. And I feel like a puzzle game, the struggle is putting together the pieces, not like memorizing the pieces. So I kind of dock it a bit for that because I did find that to be a little bit unpleasant. And I felt like I had to sort of help myself along in that aspect of the experience. But everything else goes together very nicely. There's fun little like, okay, you need to make a certain kind of cocktail to like help the soil. Oh, I know it's this thing. Like the way you get to draw the dots and like connect the lines feels very satisfying, even though it is not inherently super like mentally taxing. So if that speaks to you, I think you really enjoy Botany Manor. I had a great time with it.
Botany Manor, everybody. Sweet, sweet, sweet.
You're selling me on it, Janet. I want to check that out.
I think like I feel like you'll like it if you like this kind of game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leo, second chance games. A game you said, by God, I'm going to give this one more go and see how
This first chance stinks.
Yeah.
I'll wait for the second one. Thank you.
Yeah. What have you been playing recently?
Middle-earth Shadow of War has been my latest Steam Deck 6-year-old game to go back to.
What is that? So you're just hitting that sweet spot still. If Steam Deck is designed for games that released from 2013 to 2017?
Yes, because that's what runs best on it.
Yeah.
And also, being in bed is when you want to be doing your most cozy gaming, your comfort just for me type games.
And that's like slicing orc heads off as they go, oh, the ranger, over and over again.
Baby,
Sometimes
yeah.
Kumail Nanjiani is there.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about Kumail Nanjiani. But give me your arc, because I know you love Shadow of Mordor, and
I really did.
You were really hyping up. You made that whole video essay on MinnMax's channel about the DLC for Shadow of Mordor. Be like, this is all you need, actually. What was the name of the DLC?
Shadow of War. It was the DLC for this.
Oh, it was. Oh, man.
I forget what it was. It was the final one where you play as Baranor or Balinor or Balatro or something, and it's like a roguelike. It's a one run mode, which was really cool, and a way to come back to the game for just a bite-sized thing and not have to start a whole campaign like I was brave enough to do this time.
Yeah, so you bounced off the main game and focused on the DLC, but now you're going back and realizing the main game has more than you realized.
I played through the main game and beat it the first time.
Okay.
But my memory of it was really trying to beeline through the story too much. Being like, I'm going to focus on the story completely before I start doing all the Nemesis stuff. And then the story became way longer than I expected. And I was totally burnt out by the time I tried to engage with the Nemesis stuff, which is like what I was there for, obviously. Systems man that I am.
Yeah.
And this time I've been just knowing that I didn't end up caring about the story, just skipping all the cutscenes, still playing some of the story, but it's all about the captains, the orc personalities and stuff. Even in story missions, it's like, do this thing while these two captains are lurking around. And it's like, forget the Palantir or whatever stupid reason I'm supposed to be here for. I am here because these two are here and I'm going to deal with them.
Yeah.
And you get, of course, all those great procedural stories, which I didn't give enough credit for how deep that is in this because I was trying to blow past it. And then when I did engage with it, I didn't quite have the patience for it. Example being, through this story, I was raiding a war chief who's like a mini boss in these games. His name was Ulu Potlicker or something.
Ulu Potlicker?
Like, you interrupts me eating my stew. And
Please, Ulu Potlicker was my father.
Sorry for what I did to him. Sorry for the rest of the story. I fought him. He was way higher level than me. And you can either, at the end you can brand them and it'll say they're too high level to recruit. Because of course in this game you're recruiting orcs and pitting them against each other.
Yeah.
Or just killing them and getting loot. Typically I would go, I could shame them. It brings their level down. But then what? I have to go find them again and then defeat them again. That doesn't seem like something I have the patience to do when it's so non-essential. And I'm not necessarily rewarded for it with loot. I'm more rewarded with just the depth of the story that's happening. But this time I am being more patient. And so when I beat Mr. Potlicker, I decided to shame him, grabbed him, threw him, went and found him again. What I didn't realize is that it brings their level way down, so they're way easier to beat when you find them again.
Right.
And he's gone from being a war chief to being this lowly captain who's out like hunting for meat for his group. And I take him out again, and I recruit him, and I command him to go infiltrate this other war chief, thinking that's like a fun arc for him getting brought down from his throne, but like begging to help defend Mordor with this other war chief. And he has to win this fight to prove his worthiness. And you go to this type of fight, you can pick captains against each other and help them kill that captain if that's what you want. But in a case like this, you just have to watch them fight and you're not allowed to intervene. And it's almost like an auto battler where you watch them do the whole fight. And depending on, if one has a fire weapon and the other one's weak to fire, even if there's a 10 level gap, like the fire one is going to win. And you can strategize around it that way. And so I went and watched the fight and he got through it, infiltrated the war chief's base, became his personal spy, which means when you go and do that mission, he's like skulking behind the war chief. And then when the war chief spots you, they betray him, stab him in the back. But in this case,
love those parts.
It's the absolute best. I do it for every single war chief. I try to get spies on my side and do the betrayal thing. And in this case, I was doing the pre-mission that draws the war chief out, hopping around inside the enemy fortress from rooftop to rooftop, taking out the archers or whatever. And I take out an archer and then I get ambushed, which is just the best one of the best things ever. The camera spinning around and zooming in on this orc who snuck up behind you, and he gives his personal reason for why he's pissed at you. Like your surprise fight. And it was this guy who was under my control. It says he was betraying me instead of his war chief. He's like, I'll never fight for you. And so I fight him on this rooftop, beat him down again eventually. And then I grab him, and the decisions are like, recruit again, because he's still at my level. And so I press recruit, and he's like, I won't do it. And it pops up Iron Will, this new trait he's gained from betraying me.
Ooh.
I could never convert him.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's so awesome. And then I'm like, okay, I guess this is how it has to be. And I throw him aside and grab him and throw him off the roof. And that's like the end of that character's arc.
So awesome.
I feel like that game is too crunchy for my sensibilities, but I do love what you're describing, where like how integrated the story aspects are to like the mechanics. I think that's so cool when games can like really like unify those.
I cannot believe the Nemesis system has not been more used in gaming. It's
Wasn't
crazy.
it copyrighted? Was that an urban legend?
No,
They tried, right?
No,
Or is
I
that
think-
an urban legend?
I
This is
think-
a lunchroom gossip.
it is one of those
Renegades
things
had
of
a
like
version of it, which I
that
think it was.
headline made the rounds of they copyright. We should ask Haley about it for the specifics, but I think that's more than an urban legend, yeah. And so in theory, then they'll be using it for the Wonder Woman game, which is what Monolith is working on now. But it's a confusing chart. But Shadow of War is such an interesting game because 2014, a lot of folks really loved Shadow of Mordor. I'd argue game of the year that year, right? Like there's a lot of people's in the top of the heap there. And then Shadow of War, I was just trying to think back on, it came out in 2017. Which, by the way, it's just a wild thing to think about. Monolith hasn't released a game since 2017. Like that's wild.
Wow.
But the release, it was just so dinged by the microtransactions.
Yep.
And so in my mind, it was like, well, I don't even know if I really want to try that much Shadow of War because I guess the microtransactions are gross. They want you to get into this whole kind of competitive online thing that happens later in the game, and you can buy boost and all that stuff. And at that point, it's like, all right, well, moving on. And then eventually they took the microtransactions out, but I feel like that stigma was still there of the release of Shadow of War. And I know there's a lot of overlap you could draw to Dragon's Dogma 2 and Huber. I know you have strong feelings on
second chance.
Right, but this feels like the perfect second chance game of now you go back and look at it and it's like, oh, these systems are awesome, and now divorced from all that microtransaction nonsense, this is such a cool game.
I went back to it later for sure.
Did you? Because of the microtransaction stuff?
This game weirdly like changed my life in a weird way, not because of its quality, but because I learned to relax and just
Oh my god!
enjoy
Hold on, I gotta play this. Hold on.
I learned.
Hold on.
Because like I love when games push back. I love when games are a little harder and a little challenging because then it makes like, especially loot, it makes loot matter more. It makes the economy of the game matter more. When it's harder, it's like, oh, I found this thing and it's going to help me progress. So Brandon Jones was like, no, man, I love being like a god in these games, and Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War are like the epitome of that. Like, you are a god in these games. Like, it is just like, how many orcs can you take on by yourself?
Yeah.
And then I went into the game just with that mindset of like, I'm just going to relax and just be a god in this game and just like kill as many orcs as I can. And then like, it reframed the way I look at some games. Like, not every game needs to fit in the parameters of your taste, So I just, ever since then it was like, okay, is this game like easy? Is it hard? Whatever. It just like helped me like a different style of game.
That's so great. And it makes so much sense in this game because it's like when you lose, when you get killed by a captain, it shows you like that they get promoted and these other things move in the timeline. It's just like a part of this continuous story in a way that makes it feel less frustrating. And also it is funny that you say that because I think part of the reason I bounced off it or didn't bounce off it at all, but didn't like it at first time was because I insisted on playing on the Nemesis difficulty, which is like one of the higher ones. Just because, I really want to have to know the orc's weakness to be able to take him out and stuff. But I'm playing on normal now just because I want to, without so much friction, be able to move these pieces around and get this orc captain that's going to be fun to utilize in this situation and not have like so many things interrupting me on that. Yeah. And that is a big part of why I'm liking it, is because I'm being a lot more active, making a lot more moves because I'm not stuck doing really long fights every time.
I remember getting obsessed with those gems like finding all those gems. It was so bizarre. I'm like, why am I obsessed with these? What? I don't even need these. I don't even need this extra like plus 10 attack. Like, but I just remember getting so caught up in like getting all those.
It's incremental. It's like you get a few and then you can combine them into a bigger one. That just feels great, of course. And it is so interesting that it's even a stealth game, like in such a big way. To have an open world stealth thing, going back to it, it's automatically like, well, I didn't give this enough credit. But it is like that power fantasy, your god, in a stealth framework. So all the stealth games I've played that hold you back and you're one tiny guy working through this sea of a million guys. It's like, no, you can distract anybody to anywhere from anything. You can like leave a ghost behind that kills someone for you while you go ahead and move on to somewhere else in the base. I got this super fun piece of gear, or it's a skill upgrade that makes the limited resource that slows down time, you use less of it when you're flying in the air doing a mid-air shot, which of course we all love in video games when you can do that.
Classic.
But it does it less than normal. So I have this incentive to be jumping from place to place shooting instead of just standing still and shooting.
It's awesome.
It's so amazing. The depth of control, the like slides you can do and things. I'm working in a lot more of the combat moves than I'm used to, leaping off of ledges and then double jumping and then shooting from there to get cheeky hits on people. It just feels so good. And it's totally like Mad Max or whatever.
Yeah.
There's something about it that's like, maybe there's just less games that feel like it these days. To when I go back to it, I'm just immediately more grateful.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's part of it too. Just the fact that Monolith hasn't released a game since 2017. You know, where they released this 3 years after that first game, and now you look back and be like, oh, those were so unique, and it's kind of been slim pickings if you're looking for a systems-focused open world game like this. You got your Watch Dogs Legion, I suppose, that's trying to somewhat be in that wheelhouse of, immersive systems geeks. Maybe come on board if you like open worlds with that. But
I definitely wish that was more like this, for sure.
Yeah.
I could talk about this game all day, but last thing I want to say is just how fun and varied the orc personalities are, and the things you can do that you piss them off and give them specific problems with you. I walked into a new region where you don't have any Uruks tagged. It's a bunch of silhouettes on the army screen. And I see the first group of orcs just sitting around a campfire, and I use my detonate thing, which I have modded in the skill tree to eject spiders from the fire to capitalize on fears of spiders. I try to be able to play on everybody's fear. And I do it, and it explodes, and spiders come out of the ground, and then immediately whatever Gorog spider lover pops up behind me, covered in spider webs, and he's like, "You think you control the spiders?" 5 seconds after I get into this new map. It's so fun and funny. And I think part of the bloat I was worried about, or didn't like early on, was like, there's too many orcs to remember the names of. Mm-hmm. Every single map has more of them, and there's way more maps versus Shadow of Mordor was like a few really memorable ones. But this, I'm having an easier time when I'm focusing directly on it, remembering those arcs and being interested in that.
Yeah. What is the Act 4 of the game gets different? That gets into like the whole combating other people online, or what is there's some weird structural shift later on, right?
Yeah, you do have to do like a certain number of sieges. I haven't gotten to that yet.
Okay.
Yeah, it was to get like the true ending. You have to like attack and defend. You have to capture like 15 or 20 or something, and then also defend your fortresses from attacks.
Okay.
Which immediately just will never be as fun because you don't know any of these Uruks. You've never seen them before.
Right.
You don't have that connection.
Yeah, I remember visiting the studio for the cover story, Game Informer, for Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War. And Michael the Plotter said, like, if we made a third game, it would be that Act 4 stuff from Shadow of War blown out into a full game. That was the idea. So if both you guys are like, like that whole structure of the sieges and all that stuff, like that's what the third game apparently would have been, is probably a live service version of that.
If they could have blown it up more and made it more interesting, Yeah. Like I think it struggles here because it's a little limited.
Yeah. And now
this is a dumb question because I know this game is like super popular. Which one was it you said? This one's Shadow of War, the one you're talking about?
The second one, yeah.
I see on Steam it has like a cajillion expansions. Are those? Do you have any of those? Is it like, I'm not in the weeds on this game. Is it like, oh, you really want to add this one because it does something that is significant or anything like that?
The Desolation of Mordor one is the one I made a watch later about forever ago, being a sleeper little awesome thing. Desolation of Mordor, that one's called, and I really recommend that. Besides that, there is one main expansion that introduces like new types of Uruks, new modifiers to the way they can be generated, which I will always pay for. That adds so much fun. That's immediately worth the money to me, something like that.
Yeah, and it's wild to think now that Michael the Plotter and some of the other leads from this are now working on that Black Panther game with EA.
Cool.
And so it's a thing of like, okay, they probably won't be able to do the exact Nemesis system, but having a more systems focused, hopefully with their sensibilities thing carrying over to Black Panther. I'm curious to see how that all comes together.
It was originally for a Batman game, I understand.
That's the weird thing, yeah. So it was rumored way back in the day, and even visiting the studio, they're very much like, we were working on another Warner Brothers property that we can't mention, but it was very much like wink, wink. It was totally Batman. And now gameplay, was just revealed for the demo that they built, which was an open world Batman game. The same time that like Rocksteady is working on theirs, but the difference is this game that Monolith was working on was taking place in the Dark Knight universe. Not to be confused with the other canceled Dark Knight video game, which Pandemic was working on or whatever, But yeah, recently it's like, hey, here's actually the test footage that's out there now. If you want to see Monolith's Batman open world game with the Nemesis system, which is where those originally developed then for this Christopher Nolan universe Batman stuff, which is weird.
I want the panel's thoughts on this because hearing about, visualizing what if the Nemesis system was in other games, it's always struck me a little. It's like, would it be weird if this specific human being was especially weak to fire, or this specific human being could be frozen easily? Like, would that feel weird?
Yeah. The fear thing would certainly work, but mental damage, they'd probably have to pivot in some way, right?
I wonder how you.
You can make it like personality driven, like like someone runs cold or something.
Yeah,
cold-blooded.
This guy needs a blanket at all times.
And it's like,
I think it'd be so perfect in a Batman game because you could like recruit some like thugs to be spies or whatever. You could even like it'd be really insane if they took it a step further and you could like recruit some of the rogues villains like Two-Face or something. You recruit them and you make them so scared that like they have to follow you or something.
Two-Face is just peeing his pants.
Freaks people out. Like,
that would be,
swear to me. Like, yeah.
I mean, talk about like an incentive for the player. How cool would that be of like, hey, if you do this well enough with the Nemesis system, you can just recruit the Penguin and he's just working for you. Or the Joker is eventually working for you as just an underling and he's just so freaked out by you as a concept. That would be sweet.
That'd be so awesome.
I think the thing holding a lot of stuff back is I feel, it kind of goes back to our Star Wars conversation of the idea of, teaming up, like it all is kind of in the same conversation of options and making characters feel real. I think so many ways games are designed is like, so there isn't, which it makes sense because you want people to be able to like beat the game and have maybe like the same experience in some regards. But I think there's such a fear where it's like, are you going to shake them down or bribe them? And kind of no matter what you do, it doesn't really matter. And it's like, he kind of said the same thing anyway. And I think that's why so often, even if it's not the Nemesis system fully fleshed out, that idea of personality and you having an effect on the world. So often that effect is like, now his pants are blue. And I'm like, I kind of wanted more.
Yeah.
Urgs do get blue pants when you convert them in this game. They get blue pants, blue shirts. So I want to get ahead of that. Yeah, it does feel like narrative Legos almost. That term popped into my head of you're really generating
I've never
your own
heard that
missions
before, Leo.
from your own character.
Really smart pull.
Thank you.
I mean, Ken Levine, he did in an interview he did recently with the Friends Per Second podcast, he did talk about that like him working on his narrative Legos project, which now is revealed to be Judas, that when he saw Shadow of Mordor release, because he's been working on it since Shadow of Mordor before they came out, that when he saw that, he's like, okay, my idea does work, is how he put it.
Word.
Those thieves, he yelled.
So we can go home now. It's like, all right, I know it works. I don't have to do it.
So Monolith was working on that Dark Knight open world game for a little bit. Kyle, you know who else worked on Dark Knight?
Jonathan Nolan?
Jonathan Nolan, who's the showrunner for the Fallout TV show on Amazon here, leaving Westworld behind for the Fallout series. Janet, you've seen a couple episodes. Kyle, you've watched the full season?
Mm-hmm. All 8. Yep.
Great. Hubert, this seems up your alley, but you haven't watched it quite yet?
Yeah, I have not had the chance, but I'm super in.
Okay. Kyle, full season, it is...
It is good.
It is good.
To quote my review on GameInformer.com, that was just my headline. The Fallout show is good. It's good. I quite liked it. Yeah.
Janet, first episodes, is it sitting well with you?
It seems okay to maybe good in the first 2. Like it definitely didn't seem bad to me. Like I don't think anyone. Well, I feel like people wouldn't watch and be like, oh no, this sucks. But are you like, oh yeah, let me run through this? Results may vary on that because I'm kind of more like, it was fine. It was inoffensive to me.
Yeah.
With some really good highs.
There's no like one singular standout episode to me necessarily, right? I think it is just consistently good throughout, and there's like a bunch of highlights and scenes and stuff that really struck me and I really enjoyed. But I will say some of my favorite stuff is like the last like 3 episodes or so.
Okay, and they get the tone right for Fallout.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because like I really liked it. I wrote up my review and I was like, I wonder if I'm on an island here. I guess I'll find out tomorrow. And it's like it seems well liked. Like people do seem to like it quite a bit, which was nice to see that I wasn't alone. But Ben, what was your question? I totally lost my train of thought.
Tone.
Well, the tone. Yes, that's the thing that I like a lot about it is it's funny. Like it's genuinely funny because they brought on. It's not like a lot of punchlines, right? It's not a comedy. I would still put it in the sort of action drama sort of genre, but they hired so many comedic actors and sometimes straight up comedians to just play the roles, and they play straightforward characters. But what a comedic actor is good at is just like they'll just have this one line of dialogue that just totally makes me laugh out loud and catches me off guard. My favorite character is the character Thaddeus, who's played by Johnny Pemberton, who I don't know, maybe Janet, you might have watched Superstore. Did you watch Superstore at all? No, okay. He plays this character named Bo in Superstore, which is like one of my favorite side characters of Superstore. And he's just in the show. He's part of the Brotherhood of Steel, which is like as a person who's not really a Fallout fan, like I'm learning all these things about this sort of the fiction. And the Brotherhood of Steel is like a straight up cult, which I like never realized. They're this cult that just like seeks out old technology and stuff like that. And Thaddeus is like one of the apprentices of the cult, and he's just a comedic actor who's just like getting swept up in all this insanity that's happening because it's such a weird, violent world. But they do hit the tone where there's stuff that really made me laugh, and that's why I ended up liking it more than something like, say, The Last of Us, which is dour and so sad all the time. Where this had consistent jokes, like I really thought it was very funny.
Yeah, how's Huber's boy Walton Goggins?
Oh, he's great.
Boyd Crowder.
I like Westworld a lot. I think let me rephrase that. I like the first season of Westworld a lot. I think the first season of Westworld is like some of my favorite TV. And Walton Goggins is the man in black from the first season of Westworld. Like that is who he's playing. He's like
interesting,
super evil, super violent, but also has more knowledge of what is happening in this world than pretty much everybody. And like you don't know as the viewer exactly what he knows. And it's like he also kind of exists on like multiple timelines in a really fascinating way. That like it has that Nolan stuff where it's like we are watching stuff in the future, we're watching stuff in the past, and it's going to coalesce in the end for some really good like cross-cutting scenes and stuff like that, where you're like kind of going back and forth. And it's really good. I really like it a lot.
I listened to an interview with Jonathan Nolan, who've never really heard too much from. Like I'm trying to remember how many long form Westworld interviews he gave and stuff. But it's funny, he was talking to.
He doesn't have a British accent, which always throws me off.
He's talking about his best buddy, his dear brother, Christopher Nolan. It's like, nope. Even as I'm listening, I was like, they can't be related. Just hearing the tones of their voices, like there's no universe. But it's funny, they're talking about like the tone, and they're comparing it to Starship Troopers a little bit. And then it was funny because in the interview, they're like,
the violence is so over the top.
Yeah. Okay. Because they brought up, like, it feels like Starship Troopers is like having a moment right now. We don't really know why, but and it was like, what? You're now in the video game world, Jonathan Nolan. You got to know about Helldivers too. And that's the reason everybody's obsessed with Starship Troopers again. But
that's funny.
Okay, great. So Jenny, you think you're going to stick with it?
I don't know. I think I'll base it on whether or not Isaiah wants to watch it. Like, I'll probably sit down and watch it with him if he wants to. Because I think, Kyle, I feel like your commentary on even though you had those 3 end highlights, that it was like, oh, it's more kind of even keeled with pops throughout. I kind of felt similarly watching the first 2 episodes. Like I will say without spoiling it, the opening, like when they're kind of looking into like the background stuff, a little bit of vault content, I thought was so good. I was like, holy cow, this is awesome. And then I was like less interested. I felt like that to me, that was the most interesting part of those 2 episodes. Like that opening, like wowed me, and then it didn't quite hit that high. But I think as far as, I totally echo your comment on the humor. Like, the humor that I saw in those first 2 episodes was very like funny scenarios that did feel, even though I never fully like beat any of the Fallout games, it felt reminiscent of part of the appeal of those games of, oh my gosh, I'm going to these areas, what's going to happen? And sometimes like really wacky, unexpected things go down. And I think they nailed that really nicely. I think like the design of the, oh my God, I'm blanking on the name for the suit. Like
it's a power armor, right?
Yeah, the power armor and the sound and everything. Like,
actually looks cool. Yeah,
it has such a funness and an accuracy to it. As far as cast, I'm like terrible with names, but like if you watch the teaser trailer, this thing is in that teaser trailer. But I'm saying that in case you didn't watch it and don't want to know who's in the show, whatever. But like Zach Cherry was like in that teaser trailer from Severance,
yeah,
like what I know from Severance, playing a character that I think is perfect based on having watched Severance, and I was like, oh my God, I love this character. So definitely
they just get funny people to play like normal characters, right? Yeah. Like they're not winking, right? They're not like, I'm here to tell the jokes. Like that's not what the comedic actors do. But it was, so I'm not really a Fallout fan. I don't know if we established that. So like it was fun for me to watch it and learn about the game. And it like, I feel like it does not hit you over the head with reverential stuff. It is just very much like, this is the world that exists, you know? But it was funny watching it with my wife, who does like Fallout a lot and played 3 and 4. And there's that opening sequence where she's literally going down her stat sheet in like an interview. And it looks like Fallout Shelter. Because they're going to the different rooms, and my wife was like, "This is Fallout Shelter."
Oh, I was
literally,
I love this. You know,
I was literally going to bring that up because I think that was such a fun and subtle integration of the like source text.
Yeah.
Stuff that I didn't pick up on either because I'm not like fully in on Fallout either. Is I don't know if it was like when they started like I don't want to say tasks, but like, you know, when the mate like, oh, we need to go here or do this thing. There was like the mission sound played briefly or something like that. Like one of the audio cues from the game. And like, I didn't notice it because I don't have like the audio cues of the game ingrained in my soul. But like, if you did, like you'll pop for like that stuff. And I think the iconography is familiar. Like if you know the games a little bit, is familiar enough where, you know, someone like me, I'm like, I can still appreciate like what it means to get into that armor and then like that, you know, what kind of monsters you see and like the so I think it hits a nice middle ground in that sense where it's not like it's because it's not replicating the story. Like again, that Last of Us comparison. Yeah. It leaves things open for just kind
new
of
story, new characters as far as I know. New environment, like it's like this is a lot of video game adaptations are doing this really well now. It's like the line that we've crossed, I feel like, where it's very clear that the writers and creators know it and are fans of it. Right. And like there's this great joke in the 3rd episode that is just Walton Goggins' character just getting so frustrated that he basically has to abandon the main task to go just deal with garbage that is distracting. And it's like, yes, the people who wrote this clearly know Fallout. Like you're going to get distracted by stupid nonsense. And that's what the game is. That's what happens in this world. Yeah. And it's like, it's just a good example of like, it really is. It's adapting the world well, rather than retelling something that's already been done, which is what kind of turned me away from The Last of Us. Like this is like, hey, there's all this fiction that exists. We're going to create something new in here. And it has that Westworld Nolan, Lisa Joy touch that I really liked. So like I would even go so far as to say like it's probably my favorite video game adaptation.
Jesus, right on.
Like I still like Werewolves Within a lot, but I feel like that doesn't even count. I feel like that's just a good like horror comedy.
They dropped the ball. They didn't respect the story of Ubisoft's Werewolves Within in that adaptation, so I couldn't get on board with it.
But if they respected it, would people have even noticed? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, of course not. No, it's just a zero.
I mean, the trailer for Werewolves Within is perfect. It's like based on the best-selling video game you've never heard of. It's like they knew what they were
I think
doing.
too, like to your point, Kyle, like I really love, like I can't imagine watching this and liking it more than The Last of Us just because that one episode of The Last of Us was so good. I'm like, you're not going to touch it. So it doesn't really matter.
That episode, the thing about that episode is its original story, right?
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to bring up. Like I do think there's something to be said about deviations, and obviously deviations don't always hit. I guess they hit maybe when you have enough of a base lore. You know, I think that was my problem with the Mario movie. The base lore is things I can see. Like, oh, I know that shell. It's like that's not really enough to build, I think, a story on.
Fiction, right?
Yeah, so I think that was kind of the struggle, you know, if we want to go like, you know, we did obviously content on that, and you guys can check that out for our thoughts on the Mario movie, but that was kind of where it sort of faltered, or it struggled to kind of find its footing, because it's deviating from something that didn't even have an established base to really begin with, so I think it was kind of doing double work. But I think the last thing I want to say too on the humor, not that I like found it like insanely funny. It doesn't beat your head over it with the humor like you mentioned, Kyle. But I feel like the humorous moments kind of reminded me of like, and I don't want to say it's this funny because this is a high bar, but like older Simpsons. Where it's like, like that scene, like with the monorail, where they're like, "We're too late," and then he goes, "I shouldn't have stopped to get that haircut." That's so funny to me. Like, if you find that funny, you'll find a couple. Like, I'm not saying it's going to be, at that level, but you will find a couple of those little moments where, like, it just zags just enough. You know, kind of like Pepsi with lime vibes, except it tastes good. But
it's the Pepsi with lime.
If you put lime into one of those drinks, it tastes good. But when you buy it pre-limed, it never quite tastes right. I think we all can agree
and for,
on that.
for audio listeners,
fresh lime.
There was a scene that I paused because I was like laughing a lot, and it was just a character talking to like a wasteland radio DJ about fiddle music. That was just so like absurd that this conversation is taking place in the middle of hell. It's like it just worked for me in a way that I really enjoyed.
That's sweet. On Amazon, if you're going to check out that Fallout TV show. Kyle, before we let you go into the great beyond, do you know how this whole thing operates?
Vault-Tec?
Vault-Tec primarily, which can be found at patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. You go there, you find a Patreon tier that's right for you, something that's sustainable for you, and that keeps us sustainable on this end of things. Thanks to everybody for going there, unlocking a benefit, jumping in $2 tier, $5 tier, to everybody who unlocked that bonus podcast feed. Greatly appreciate you all supporting independent games media. Kyle, we got a lot of hot ads to get through. You want to get the hell out of here?
I'd love that. Should I clap?
You gotta clap. All right, bye, Kyle. Hey, now that Kyle's gone, I've been meaning to remind you guys too. If you jump in and support MinnMax on Patreon this week at even that $2 tier, so I'm talking April 10th, April 11th, April 12th. If you jump in there at even the $2 tier on Patreon, I'll DM you on Patreon personally with an Xbox game. You can get a random Xbox code. Whoa. We literally have hundreds of Xbox games to give away. So jump in there this week alone, and I will jump in there on Patreon and say, hey, I'll slide into those DMs in a positive, friendly way and offer you an Xbox code and talk to you a bit. So you can jump in, support Independent Games Media. We'd appreciate it. Otherwise, thank you to some of our bigger supporters. I'm talking about folks like the catch is when you misspeak to make it seem like you're doing a wacky Southern accent.
Supporters.
Liquid IV. Leo.
Oh my God, I was going to guess Liquid IV during the break.
Wait, really?
Yeah. I didn't because, I messed up. Sorry, I ruined your ad. Go ahead.
Leo, what do it's getting warmer outside here in Minnesota. You like getting outside, like doing some activity. What brings you joy outside, Leo?
Walking, biking, but even just having a little dinner out there in the fresh air. We just put the patio furniture out yesterday.
Ooh,
so nice to have that going again.
And what's dinner without water?
Lunch.
But perhaps it's also, who needs water? Because, look, I guess that's satisfying and it quenches you a little bit, but what if you had a little water plus, or as they like to call it, Liquid IV, everybody. Super easy to use. Rip open a packet, pour it in there. Extra hydrating. It's the #1 powered hydration brand in America. 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink. Pour that stuff down the drain. Go for Liquid IV instead. We got a big batch of Liquid IV at the house the other day, which was just delightful. And my brother-in-law was visiting with his girlfriend, and they're younger. They like drinking a little bit, and they might need a little electrolyte boost. And I felt like the hero to be like, "Hey, do you guys want a batch of Liquid IV?" They're like, "Oh my God, we love Liquid IV!" Sincerely, they were over the moon about it. I felt like a real champion in the house that day.
I don't do any convention work drinking without Liquid IV.
Really?
Yeah, I drink it every
Liquid
night.
IV? This swill?
Sick.
Well, Liquid IV, yeah, literally. Like every night I'll have Liquid IV. In the morning I'll have Airborne. If I don't have an Airborne available, I will swap it with Liquid IV. The extra hydration to ward off the germs and the sleep and all that, Yeah,
demons, I get it. That's sweet. You can
My fiance doesn't drink caffeine, but she does drink Liquid IV.
Jesus, it's everywhere.
She needs a little boost.
You can turn your ordinary water into extraordinary hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV as well when you go to liquidiv.com and use code MinnMax at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MinnMax, liquidiv.com. Check out the description for all that funky details on how to get a discount for Liquid IV. Leo, do you ever Google your name or your email address?
Yes.
Are you ever horrified just by like, hey, there's a lot of personal information out there on the internet about me. This is not a great feeling.
Right, and how do I get into email? I put my email address in the search bar and I can't. They're not seeing my in the inbox.
Well, then, boy, do I have a service for you. It's called Aura, A-U-R-A. What they're doing, Leo, is they clean the internet so that there's not a bunch of just loose information for scammers out there about you that can just be sold to data brokers and anybody else that will want to target you. So Aura shows you which data brokers are selling your information and automatically submits to opt-out requests for you. So if you're worried about your name, your personal info just being out there on the internet in a big and truly bad way, Aura can help you out and help you clean up this whole thing. Cleaning up your personal information not only helps you reduce the amount of spam you get, but it protects you from hackers who could use that information to access social media accounts, bank accounts, other sensitive information. Aura does so much more to protect me and my family from online threats that I can't see. I get other features like antivirus, VPN, password management, parental controls, identity theft insurance, and more without having to download several different apps. It's easy to set up. Best of all, you get everything at one affordable price. So if you value your privacy online, you can go to aura.com/MinnMax to start your 2-week free trial. And also there's a link in the description if you want to check that out. So you can stop data brokers from exposing your personal information. Go to aura.com/MinnMax, 14-day free trial. See how much of your data is out there being sold and clean it up, everybody. Clean up your online act, we dare to say. Also, shout out to stamps.com. Now we're talking. Janet, do you have an example of like a no-brainer decision you made recently?
Gosh, it's hard to think.
It is.
I don't know. Getting on this podcast.
It's true. If you're invited to be on the MinnMax Show podcast, I would consider it a no-brainer to jump on. Well, in the world of shipping, there's only one true no-brainer, Janet, and it's stamps.com. And might we remind everybody, when I first brought up that stamps.com was a sponsor, Janet and Kelsey said, well, yeah, duh, of course we use stamps.com. It's a freaking no-brainer. Genuinely, those were very close to the words, were they not?
I like stamps, I think was maybe what I said. So,
exactly. Stamps.com, everybody, now available in a handy mobile app. It's a post office in your pocket, wherever you go. It's your greatest fantasy, Leo.
Can I share my post office experience that made me wish I used stamps.com?
Yeah, sure.
I went to ship something I was selling on eBay, and the post office was empty, and I don't really ship stuff very much. So I was kind of like, hey, sorry, I'm here. I have like this QR code. I haven't really done this before. What do I need? And she was like, yeah, sure, go over there and grab those bubblers, that bubbler. Yeah. And I went over to this rack and there's like bubble wrap. And I picked it up and looked at her and she was like, no. And I was like looking around. I couldn't move it. I was trying to spin it around, but I couldn't. So I just had to peek behind and I picked at something else. I was like, this? And she was like, no. And I picked at something else. And she was like, yeah. And it was like a mailer that had bubble wrap on it.
You're not expected to know that stuff.
She was like, there you go.
Oh.
And I was like, in my defense, the bubble wrap looks way more like something that's called a bubbler.
The tutorialization in that post office was kind of aggressive. A little rude.
Yes, it was weak. It was obtrusive for the player. But,
you'll never be attacked by stamps.com, especially that mobile app right in your pocket. It's never going to insult you, quiz you on what these things are called. All you need is a computer and a printer, and stamps.com, of course, sends you a free scale so you can easily schedule packages to pick up through stamps.com's dashboard, automatically see the cheapest and fastest shipping options from different carriers. It's the most obvious no-brainer decision, and millions of people have done it. So you can go sign up at stamps.com, sign up with the promo code MinnMax for a special offer that includes a 4-week trial. 4 weeks? Good Lord. Plus free postage and a free digital scale. No long-term commitments and contracts. Just go to stamps.com, click the microphone at the top of the page, enter code MinnMax. You're home free, baby. Also, thank you to our dear friends at I Am 8-Bit, the coolest online store around. They want everybody to know about the Vampire Survivors Volume 1 vinyl soundtrack, the double vinyl soundtrack that's available on their wonderful online store. Get ready for that Contra DLC coming to Vampire Survivors by listening to the soundtrack for the original game, because it's quite cool. And believe it or not, I Am 8-Bit they only have incredibly cool vinyls on their store. I don't know how, some sort of curation process. I can't wrap my mind around it, but it is truly the coolest online store you can find. And you can go to imapeit.com, use the promo code SHOWERPOWER for 10% off of everything under $100 in that online store.
And we're running long, but I do need to get this in. Vinyl is coincidentally how a vampire would say vinyl.
And help support I'm 8-Bit because they're supporting MinnMax and the community in a big way by shipping out the vinyl soundtrack to the Super Mario Brothers movie, the 7-inch Bowser vinyl, to whoever has the best question submitted over there on Patreon. So look alive. We got to remember the best question submitted on Patreon. They get the prize, the Super Mario Brothers vinyl soundtrack, thanks to I'm 8-Bit. Ready for these things?
Yes.
No, look, Leo, the beauty of having for the video version the backstage chat on the screen is everybody can jump in there and say you're a comedic genius, even if we're all giving you the death glare on the podcast.
You can find my
just
people.
what my eyes look like. It's very rude of me to say.
We asked for people to write in with their second chance games they went back to that just ballooned in their love. And so a lot of folks wrote in about that. Dingus 2K, which is pretty appropriate for a name. They say, a game I'm really glad I returned to is Red Dead Redemption 2. I played it on release. Easy, Huber, don't melt. I played it on release and basically just sped through the second half of the game to get to the end. I was playing games differently then since I was still in college. I traded it in when I was done so I could buy whatever big title was releasing next. Then a couple years passed. I played some of the online with friends and I was itching to return to it after watching a Jacob Geller video. Now I'm on my third playthrough and it's one of my absolute favorite games of all time. I barely fast travel. I lean completely into role-playing the experience and I cherish Red Dead 2's story and characters at this point.
Amazing.
I am due for that myself. I love Red Dead 2, but I made the mistake, Huber, of I was playing through the epilogue and we were doing like a spoiler cast the next day at Game Informer. And I was like, I'll just get through this epilogue tonight. Jump cut to, it was like 4 a.m. That epilogue is just the final third of the game. It's ridiculously big. And so I didn't like the epilogue because of that. Maybe I should just go back and replay that epilogue just to like savor it, take my time with that sucker and not just be angry, but like, I need to go to sleep. Why are you singing a song about a house? I cannot handle this at this moment in the night. That's on me.
I was thinking about that with Shadow of War, similarly speeding through it, making it not a good experience. I think that's true for a lot of people and like in a lot of instances and a lot in our line of work specifically. That Shadow of War was like 6 months after I got my job at Game Informer. So it felt like one of the early ones of like trying to speed through it to have a conversation about it. And
that's why I love playing older games because there's no rush.
Yep. Oh,
so nice.
Andrew Lyman wrote in Horizon Zero Dawn was there again. They picked it up again during the pandemic and they're like, it consumed their time. They're in love with it. Nick West for Bloodborne, Seltzer Water with Witcher 3, JT Denton, Prey. They went back to and they're like, goddamn, Prey rules.
Just installed that on my Steam Deck.
Oh man, Leo, that's next for you.
Second chance for sure.
Like now is your chance to get into the Mooncrash DLC.
Right.
Tom Blackburn, same with you, Hubert. They also got into Cyberpunk 2077, gave it that second chance.
Totally.
Yep.
Perfect one.
Super Cerberus, Mass Effect, really had an impact on you with a name like that. Metal Gear Solid 4 for Dan from Canada. Philly Eatsteak, Gotham Knights. They went back here and they're like, you know what? Having a good time with Gotham Knights actually on PS Plus. That's the right place to play it, I feel like.
Right on.
Green Mountain State, Breath of the Wild. Andrew Martin, Dark Souls 2. They got into again. Joshua Ayers, Nier Automata. Felix Diaz, Subnautica. Oh God, the best. Of course, Nate Voris got really into Wheelman starring Vin Diesel once they gave it a second chance.
I do think about that game weirdly often.
Why?
I bet it is fun.
Okay.
There's these abilities you had were like slow motion as you're driving, spin the car around and shoot behind you out of the windshield from like a close up third person perspective.
Yeah.
I bet that's fun still.
In my mind, like, I love Stuntman so much, and I always just saw this and was like, this is some Stuntman wannabe game. I don't even want to try it, but I don't know. It's just the man driving aspect, but you know what? Maybe we all should go back to Wheelman starring Vin Diesel. Israel Roque with the Neo series. Michael Berry with Star Wars Force Unleashed for the PSP. Jeremy Farbman, interesting tale here, saying a second chance game for me. I tried Professor Layton a few years ago, but I quit because the puzzles reminded me too much of math class. But I do love Phoenix Wright, and I'm currently playing the crossover between the two, and I was surprised to find myself looking forward to Layton sections more than Phoenix's. So now I need to go back to Professor Layton since that was kind of warming me up to it.
Great game.
Perfect.
Next, they're gonna go back to math. Just really take it all full circle.
Ooh, second chance math class.
Going back to worksheets.
Yeah, like you know what, man, misjudged math.
Cody Allison with Divinity Original Sin 2. That's a great one, especially like post Baldur's Gate 3. But a lot of people are going like, wait a minute, there's a lot of magic here. Patrick Hughes, Majora's Mask on 3DS. Perfect example of a second chance. Like that won so many people over, I feel like. Tim Matahan, last one I promised. They say, my second chance game is Dead Cells. Well, now, Tim, you're going to have to go play Prince of Persia. Do you guys remember that when the Dead Cells developers are making a roguelike Prince of Persia? Like months after the other one released? Isn't that weird?
Where?
Anyways, Tim says, hey, I guess my question, though, is what's your preferred genre for traveling?
Mobile game stuff. Actually, Leo, I got really into the game you recommended like maybe 1 or 2 years ago with the name that's kind of rough. Gosh, it's like the Apple Arcade game.
Heart of Darkness?
No,
Finity?
Sping?
Oh,
Bing.
But the I is an exclamation point?
Yeah.
Question mark? Like it's a little, I don't even know if we know the answer to that. But yeah, it was really fun because I realized, I'm trying to finally start to accept that I am not the person I want to be and I need to stop packing as the person that I want to be and pack as the person I am.
Yep.
And the person I am is gonna at most get 10 minutes in of a video game that's like a larger time sink, on the Switch, on the Steam Deck. So I'm like, you know what? But with mobile, it's like, it's fun, it's quick, it's something to do in case like I don't want to, watch something. It fits travel really, really well. So I think that might be what I lean on. And really my goal is to get, I want to get a Game Boy Micro. It's like one of my dream consoles because it's so small. Even if I don't play it, it doesn't really matter. So it's like, I want smaller stuff if I'm not going to play it.
I'm with you, Jen. Like, there's nothing that feels worse on planet Earth than going on a trip and packing a Switch and a Steam Deck. Because like, I'm going to conquer so much. And then you get back from the trip and be like, I didn't turn on either of those. Like, what am I doing? Like, and I hate that feeling, when I went on vacation over winter break and I brought my Switch and I'm like, this is it. This is Star Ocean second story art time, baby. I can finally dive into this in a big way. And then there's something about just like on the handheld screen, I'm like, I can't get into like a systems focused RPG.
The sun's glaring off.
Yeah,
of
it doesn't work. And that's like the genre thing too. When you're traveling, like I just need like whatever's closest to Bejeweled is going to be peak traveling gaming content. If you get more complex than that, I'm out, I feel like.
Yeah, podcast games are big for sure.
Yeah.
And I guess it's a different answer for a fun trip versus a work trip. With a work trip, I definitely want a podcast game that is ultimate recharging brain off time. I'm never looking to be challenged in the bed in the hotel at night.
Right. No one ever is. Adam Brungart writes in, and Adam asks, I guess this is a good question for Hubert. Hubert, would you consider a shield to be, if it had to be one or the other, is a shield a weapon or a piece of armor?
I mean, it's a piece of armor that can be used as a weapon.
That's a cop-out answer.
Yeah,
if you
that's
don't want to answer, you could just say
we don't allow cowards on our podcast, Hubert. You can't do this.
I'm sorry, we say A or B and you say ab. I'm going to say something, okay?
All right, I'm going to say, I'll commit to armor then. It is armor.
It's armor that you can attack somebody with, but it's not technically a weapon.
Yeah, it's armor.
I think it's a weapon.
What about
because that's kind of the trade-off of like when you put the shield away and you can dual hand the weapon, it's like you're removing a weapon-esque thing to favor a specific weapon. And that's why I think
do you think
it's just a defensive weapon. It's like an attack can be like stat based, like I cast sleep. And it's like you're not hitting someone over the head, but you're in combat. Yeah. You're engaging in combat inherently.
If you want to call it a weapon, I'm just asking if we were omniscient throughout time.
Even though I wasn't asked the question, but
but do you think that anybody throughout the medieval ages was ever like renowned for being a great fighter with a shield?
The shield maidens, Vikings.
Ooh, that's a thing?
Yeah.
That's not just from the show?
Good answer.
So they would just have shields?
I just said yes because you sounded correct.
What do they do? They they charge people?
I know what he's talking about.
They like push them off cliffs? What do? You beat somebody over the head with a shield? What do you do?
Yeah, like shield walls, and then you like keep like moving forward and like boxing them in.
Also, you can shield serve. I feel like you're not gonna I mean,
A lot of
I
shield
guess if you
surfing from
put
the
wheels
Vikings.
on your shoes, you can traverse with clothes. Like there is a world where you traverse with clothes. So actually, I messed that up. I redact my statement.
Also, the sharp part of a shield through someone's decapitating someone, didn't that happen in Game of Thrones or something?
I could see
someone
that.
I think like Tyrion like stabs someone with a shield. Right?
I do like
Though
the
if you go
shield.
too far, it's like you can stomp people out, but the boots aren't a weapon. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
If we're allowed to call it an accessory, is that what it is?
No, it's not an option. Not an accessory. It's not an option.
But theoretically.
No. I'm actually horrified by that.
I feel like accessory does imply like cosmetic, even if it has a stat. Like in Zelda, you can wear like earrings, and those are accessories that have statistics associated with them.
Yeah.
But you're not gonna like. I mean, I wish Link would take his earrings off when he fought. That would be hilarious. But you're not gonna like throw it in someone's eye. Unless
You could
get
choke
really
on
desperate.
earrings,
You can, but
which
like.
would make them a weapon.
Well, things can become a weapon, but what are they inherently? Because anything can be a weapon, right? If I take this, if Huber takes his Jabba the Hutt mug and chucks it at someone's head, they're going down, you know? But it doesn't mean the mug is a weapon. Unless that was like his thing, you know? It's like, oh, this is Mug Man.
Huber, I've said your name like 14 times over this conversation, so this is going to be really a letdown when I finally get this point across. But is anything better than people with a wall of shields, but they all say the same thing as they move in unison? Like,
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Why is that satisfying? It's like history's musical.
Yeah, it's just the co-op bond. You know, everyone is on the same page.
Right.
They're all just living and dying together.
What's
Doing the raid.
What's an optimistic, like friendly version of that we can incorporate into modern culture? You know, because is there any? What is
Sports
that?
chanting.
Yeah, but that's aggressive.
The wave.
You're not trying to
It is the
defeat something
wave.
in a mosh pit.
No, yeah, the wave is the example. Yeah, that is exactly it. But that's silent, I guess. Well, I guess you go, whoa.
Yeah.
That's fun.
You guys, are you okay? I don't want to sit next to y'all at a game if you're gonna go. Ah!
What? You don't make sounds, Janet? You're not. Come on, you got to make sounds for the wave. You got to give it up.
Shoot, I don't think I make any noise when I do the wave.
It all depends on what is going on.
But now I don't
in the
remember.
game at that time. If like the bases are loaded and people are doing the wave, like I'm just like,
Yeah.
I don't even like one arm maybe. Like I'm watching this, but if like no one's on, huge lead, I'll get into it. I'll
You
stand
lean
up.
all in.
I'm like, oh,
Because it's gonna sound crazy if everybody's wooing as it goes around the. That's
Are
a
we
fun
supposed
thing
to be
for everybody
wooing?
engage in.
Like, did I just miss that sociological cue? It wouldn't be the first one I missed. So.
I think it's more fun if you woo.
yeah, I think
That's
you
not what
can
I
go
asked,
either
though.
way.
I asked,
I
are we
think you can go
supposed to
either
be
way.
wooing?
It like in a stadium when you watch it go around, you know, it is like you hear the noise of it like going around. So a lot of people do like yell or cheer.
You know what? Next time I'm at a game, I'll record what's going on with the wave and I'll report back.
Hey, what about this,
Real
you guys?
journalism happening here on this channel.
What can you communicate anyway? Like, could everybody? Okay, we're starting the wave here. One's going this way, one's going this way across the arena, but they're gonna go. They're half waves. You only stand up halfway. But then it's agreed upon that when it collides on the other side of the ring, then that's like the full. That's like the crescendo
way
of the
too
wave.
complicated.
But maybe they
there's
could
no
put it
way.
up like on the board during a baseball game or something, just kind of explain what they're going for. I just think it would look really cool.
Yeah, just whisper
but
in the person's ear next to you and tell them to pass it along.
Here's the thing that I think the version of that could exist is and I think every sport has this, but people who watch other sports, let me know. Like in soccer, there's a supporter section and they have like, that's like the hardcore fanning section. They have like certain chants they do and like more rituals. I think they could, because they're a smaller section and the whole thing is like, they have almost like a cheerleader in the front who's like, hey, here's what we're doing. And like, you could maybe do something like that there, but like regular Tuesday afternoon, I'm eating a hot dog. I might leave early to beat the traffic. Like I am not gonna be able to coordinate this full stadium level wave layering that you're requesting.
I want real water wave physics, like Avatar wave water level physics in my crowd waves. I just think it'd be more fun. Ripples.
Way of water, wave. I never got that until right now. Wave water.
Oh yeah,
just
it's kind of
got
like
that.
that. Christian Jimenez writes in, and they ask a very obvious question. Where is Star Wars Eclipse? Wouldn't it have been the perfect week or day to announce or show more from Quantic Dream's Star Wars Eclipse? It is weird. They did not, I checked all the socials for Star Wars Eclipse, Quantic Dream. Not one tweet just about like, enjoy the eclipse, winky winky with a still from the trailer. Nothing. It's weird,
Maybe
right?
they didn't want the
is
smoke
weird.
though. You know, they're like, don't even ask me about this. Like, I don't want to get into it.
Really? Do you think?
I don't know how loud are their socials right now. I guess I don't. You might know
Very
more than I
quiet.
do.
Very, very quiet.
That's the thing.
Suspiciously
It might
quiet.
be like you don't want that, like, someone trying to hit a news quota for the day being like, are we getting news from Star Wars Eclipse? They're like, you know what? Let's not touch it.
Yeah. Also, I wonder if it's like George Lucas himself, just being like, hey, cool it. This is Star Wars Outlaws, time to shine. If you dare pipe up on Eclipse Day, Star Wars Eclipse, so help me God, we're bringing the hammer down. They're bringing
May the 4th.
They're saving it for that. It could be. That could be. And then they'll be like, you guys remember the Eclipse? Our game's kind of like that.
Either that or Keeley. Keeley loves the big Hollywood.
Oh, another
style.
one for another pile for the Keeley core.
Another
right.
Keeley one. Sure. Star Wars, Hollywood vibe, not just video game related.
Mm-hmm.
Keeley bait for sure.
Yep. The Juan 1 writes in. They say, hello, MinnMax. Have you been following the Helldivers 2 events over the weekend? There was a major order to wipe out the automatrons, and in 3 days it happened. A whole enemy faction was gone from the game. You couldn't do any bot missions for days. It was only bug missions and /planets. I never saw this happen before in a PvE game. It would be like if Destiny removed all the Vex from the game for a weekend, and you couldn't do any Vex strikes or raids. Is Helldivers 2 the coolest live service game yet?
It's getting there, honestly. It really is getting there. It feels like something is happening every day, and the community is making the stories.
Yes.
Like when people write articles about this game, it's like war reporting.
Yep.
Like the way everyone describes the events going on in Helldivers make it feel so real. And just like missing out, like I don't usually get FOMO really, and like the FOMO of Helldivers, it's just moving so fast. Something like Fortnite and Destiny and stuff, you can just like hop into and you have like a couple months to like consume that chunk of content.
Yeah.
Whereas Helldivers, it's just like every 4 or 5 days, like some new battle is going on, some new story, some new mystery. It's really wild.
It's perfect communication on that front. Like, listening to Mary Kish was talking about it on the Fire Escape podcast. And the way she was describing like them teasing the new kind of Protoss-like faction that they're going to be adding, like that they would just have like blue lasers snipe you from across the map. But then like the official company reporting is like, there have been rumors of different things happening. We're here to deny it. There are no new factions. There are no laser weapons. That is a glitch. Mm-hmm. That is a bug. That's not happening. But then it kept happening across the game. People were reporting it on Reddit. Like, what are these lasers? But then the community was leaning into like the propaganda angle from the game developer in a tongue-in-cheek kind of way and being like, we got to report this guy for lying on the subreddit. Like, you're just
so
that didn't actually happen. That was a glitch. Like that when the community is like swallowing in such a good-natured way the company angle, and it's all wrapped up within the propagandistic lore of the game. Like that is just next level communication. It's incredible.
So fun.
Yeah.
Ricky Maru writes in. Ricky Maru, and you can answer too, Leo. They write in, hey MinnMax, what's up with game series dropping the number after the third entry? We got Fallout 3 to Fallout New Vegas, Gears of War 3 to Judgment, God of War 3 to Ascension, Grand Theft Auto 3 to Vice City and San Andreas, Guitar Hero 3 to World Tour, Halo 3 to ODST, Mass Effect 3 to Andromeda, Mario 3 to World. This is an interesting phenomenon where somehow in the marketing, it was just agreed upon, if you have the number 4, that's too much for people, and you need to shake it up, right?
Threes? But is Fallout 4 not Fallout 4?
Yeah, because a lot of those did then go on to have a fourth entry, which makes me think that it's just they wanted to make another entry quick while the trilogy is still really hot, but don't want the like responsibility of launching a new trilogy.
I think that's it. Yeah, you're totally right. That's a very good point to bring up. Yeah, how many of these? I guess most of them would eventually have a 4. Basically.
It is interesting though that there is that kind of pause point almost in the timeline.
Right. That's like, turns out it feels like that's a little bit of a mini conclusion. So now what can we do? Let's try and make a cheaper thing to jump in on. Yeah. Shout out to Ricky Maru for spelling Gears of War Judgment correctly, by the way, with no E in the middle. No one else has ever done that on planet Earth. I'm very impressed. Andrew Baker writes in and says, hey, MinnMax, oh boy, recently Ben's take of the Jurassic Park line has gone viral on Twitter due to Jeff Grubb from Giant Bomb. My question is for Ben and anyone else. How does it feel when you're part of a viral moment, and what do you do?
You seem to be in a painful one.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about.
Yeah, what are you doing? Let's turn the question on you. We're asking the questions.
I watched the clip and you're so expressly like, it means these two things. And then everybody's like, he thinks it means this one thing?
Leo,
seeing that happen in real time.
Thank you for saying that. You never want to be a little baby about online stuff, but it's like, I'm not saying that it's only about electricity, everybody. I don't know how it's being perceived with everyone. Everyone's like, I think everyone's just using this opportunity to be like, I know Jurassic Park, and I know it's about the power of genetic engineering. And it's like, yeah, I know, obviously.
I need to get into like the viral toxicity and start commenting like, does this guy even watch Jurassic Park?
Oh
does
my
he even
God.
like Jurassic Park? He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Define my life.
He's probably faking his interest in it. You can tell he doesn't know what he's talking about.
It's been so fascinating because it really is a classic case of like, this person's dumb and I'm smart.
Yes.
This person's dumber than I thought anybody could be. And now I get to be the smart guy because I've like invented this way that they're dumb.
But also,
I've been eager to believe this way that I think they're dumb.
It's a tricky thing. Emotionally. Yeah. The short answer is I don't care for it. I don't like every time anything goes viral, it just means there's a lot of strangers on the internet calling you a moron, no matter what. It's like, why is this a goal? This is terrible.
Yeah.
You know what I was just remembering was when our new gameplay today is at Game Informer, it was always like the crummiest throwaway ones we did that would blow up for no reason.
Yes.
We had that same problem of like, whenever it blows up, it comes with mostly negative feedback and emotions.
Well, people line up to see the Titanic sinking. So that's just
I guess
human nature.
That was my take on Jurassic Park, yeah.
I think the issue, to speak to the question, like, it's like, what do you feel when it happens?
Yeah.
I think there's definitely, depending on the content, if it's like about your content at its core, which this was, there is, for me, a level of excitement of, don't you want people to see your stuff? But it is like kind of that oh no comic, like everyone's looking at me, oh no, because I think one of the issues that I find with stuff going like super viral, which granted that's how it gets viral, is a lot of people just repeat the same thing. And like, maybe this is just specific to me on the internet, but for the most part, like when I look at comments, if someone made a comment I was going to make, I'll just like their comment. Like, I don't feel the need to separately, unless it's like, I don't know, maybe like a congratulations or something where it's like, oh, it's beneficial for me to also add me repeating it. I'm like, if people are already saying what I was going to say, I can just like that comment. But I think on the internet, a lot of people, and maybe everyone else, just doesn't read everyone else's stuff. So one of the issues too, like with what you're speaking to, is it does become frustrating if someone's misinterpreting, because you don't just get one misinterpretation. You have to hear it 80 different ways. And it's like, well, I can't reply to everybody. So I guess I'll just kind of let it happen. Or like you do, one singular reply and just call it at that and hope that people read it. But,
yeah. I don't know. Look, it's a big thing, but it's like, it's nice, I guess, for Grub to share our content in that way. It's just this feeling of like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, do I turn this into some Greg Miller WWE style feud of like, I'm going to go to war over my interpretation of this line from Jurassic Park? It's like, I don't want to do that. That's not fun for me.
It was a conversation. Like, I think negativity aside, because like, I definitely feel you where it's like, it sucks when you say something and people like, just say something opposite. Like, I was on a forum once and I read that someone had said I never owned a PS2. And I'm like, what do you, or I never owned a PS3. I was like, where did that come from? I never said that.
That's so
only talked
funny.
about, I literally paid. That was like one of the first consoles I paid for. Like, but like, that's the internet.
Rumor. Yeah.
Like, some people just, Leo's just on Reddit, like fucking shit up,
Yeah, the worst part is they just make it up and you can't even defend it. Like, and you'll say that you're incorrect, and they either won't even respond, or they'll just like clap back.
Then there's like moving the goalposts, my least favorite one, where it's like, oh well, I mean, yeah, you had one, but like I feel like you didn't really understand it. It's like that's what I meant. I'm like, that's not what you meant.
Have you had stuff go viral, Huber, and you're like, oh God, no, not that. Like, I don't know, a reaction stream where you feel like you weren't at your best or something like that? I'm trying to think of like what would be the biggest viral thing.
I mean, Shenmue was big for sure. That was awesome. It was cool. But then also, ever since then, like one of my biggest fears, and this like really reinforced it, was everyone thinking that I'm like over exaggerating, that I'm like not that excited. When it's like, no, I am not fucking excited. Like, games are the best thing ever, and I just get so hyped to play them and talk about them. Like, so yeah, just people writing that narrative, and that has stayed with. Yeah, it stayed with me for years. I still get it, where they're like, "Oh, this guy is like so fake, overreacting."
Right.
It's like, yeah. So,
Yeah, people don't, I think, recognize how much projection they're doing in cases like that of like, I could never see myself feeling this way. So this person is faking their feelings when they actually feel like me.
Yeah.
I think too, you're never going to please everybody because everyone wants something different. Because like Huber will get that smoke and I get the opposite smoke. She doesn't seem like she gets excited about anything. And I'm like, sorry, that's just like, I just am not like, I just don't really pop for almost anything. I think the biggest pop I've had on a stream was like they brought Super Mario Land 2 6 golden coins to Nintendo, which I'm not even gonna play it there. I just like that game, so I'm like, hell yeah, this is a really good game, guys. But like,
no, you went full Huber. I remember you jumping on the desk. Yeah, it really went above and beyond.
It was a real Tom Cruise moment that I had over there. I'm like, oh my god, okay. I think I dated myself with that reference, but yeah, like and I guess that's something that gives me solace. It's like, hey, there's always gonna be people saying things from every angle. It's never gonna be enough for everybody. Just be you, do your stuff. Speak your truth, clarify what you can, and like how people react is unfortunately like that's not on me. I got nothing to do with me. Like just because you can't like understand words, like what am I supposed to do? Like I said what I said, and you kind of just gotta let it rock. But yeah.
So for the record, I do think that line is still a cheeky, cheesy double entendre at the very end, but I am very aware that the bigger picture is about that. So if we want to go to the mat about the idea of, did David Cope, the screenwriter, was he being a little cheesy and cheeky, and is that a pun or not? That feels like a reasonable debate to have, but I don't think that's the debate the internet's having about that clip.
Ben, I trust Isla like more than anyone when it comes to like movie analysis.
Her last name is Nublar, for the love of Christ.
I told her about this. I was like, what do you think? Is this like the electricity, the power outage? And she also agrees that it's a double
entendre. Yes.
Yeah, double entendre. Yeah.
I'm about to watch the whole movie just to get like the full lore of this. I will say like, I don't know. Again, it sucks if you're like feeling like you're catching heat for it. But one thing that I found interesting is that like, it was such a cool question to so many people that everyone does want to like weigh in. And I think there's something to be said about like generating something that does create like that conversation. And like, I don't know, it kind of to me is like a bigger version of what's fun about this segment of the show. Like so many shows barely touch community questions. It's like, oh, we have 800. I guess we'll go through 2, which I get. Everyone has different formats. But it's nice that like, this is some of the best stuff because it's like, you never know what's going to bring up. Like, yeah, so it's cool that more people got to have fun with it, but it does suck that like you catch some strays. It's along the way.
It's like if the blue dress, black dress, whatever the hell that was, if it was like 85% to 15%. It kind of feels like that. And being in the 15% of that's just like, look, I don't know. It's just my read on the situation. Leave me alone.
Why does God give his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers? I've asked myself that then. I get it.
Anyway, I think that what we can do, our part, is make clarification posts on what we meant in the clip go viral as well. We need to retweet those just as much.
Andrew Baker says, also, Ben, is Jeff Grubb your mortal enemy since this is the second time he's gotten you viral off Twitter? The infamous VGC ad moment is something I think about on the daily and laugh about. I have no idea what that means.
VGC ad.
VGC ad. I have no idea what that's referencing.
Trivia tower?
Apparently it was something funny. I have no idea. Anyways, Ryan writes in, they said, missed joke opportunity. Last episode, Kyle was reminiscing about watching fart videos with Ben and crying, laughing, to which Ben described it as highfalutin nonsense. But then Leo should have jumped in and said more like high flatulent nonsense.
Oh, I thought for sure that was going high fatootin'.
Oh no, high flatulent is the right even. And just so you jackals don't write in, yes, I heard Michael Huber talk about the great progression in the Cat's Quest game, and nobody said progression. Nobody jumped in there and said that, but we were all thinking it, so you can't write in. Also, my challenge to you, and this is a positive sentiment. It sounds like I'm yelling at the community. I'm not, but my challenge to you, I dare you to write in with a missed joke opportunity that's not a pun.
All everyone needs is a little push, and this was Ben's. Yeah. It's like, you know what? If you guys can't understand the power means 2 things, that's your problem, okay?
No, I feel like every missed joke opportunity is like, you idiots should have made this pun. But
I think that's a fair a challenge.
It's a challenge.
Non-pun ones?
Non-pun. I mean, keep the puns running too. I love them too, but I love everything. Zane Dukes writes in. They said
put that out and then be like, "Wow, this guy just loves everything."
Yep. Faker.
World War II. Ever heard of it?
Sure, just loves everything.
Oh my God, Leo. It took longer to get there than I thought, but we got there. Jeez.
Zane Dukes writes in and says, in honor of Curb Your Enthusiasm going off the air, what's something in your life that tempts you to go full Larry David?
Can you explain what this means?
Exactly? Great question.
Larry David, society bothers Larry David. So things really, really upset him. An example would be like, you go into a coffee shop and you can only pay with your phone or something. Like you have to have money on your phone. You can't give him cash. You can't give him a credit card. And then he would like freak out about that. It
is so overly complained about. But for me, the stuff with the plane, people standing up to get off the plane.
I hate it.
And people lining up early. They're like, they have not even called like anything. And they're like, just standing there. And I'm like,
Janet, that is one of my number ones. Yes.
Hell yes.
Everyone slow down.
If you and I fly together, I'm ready to talk mad shit with you. Can you believe?
They stood up like 10 minutes before.
Clogging up the aisles? Like, and then let alone, God forbid, my suitcase is one row back. Now I'm the jerk.
That's rough.
Because y'all are out here flooding the system.
That's rough. Yeah, it's funny. I was watching the latest season of Curb Your Enthusiasm, the last one here, and he did a thing where he's like, "Oh, we waste so much time at the urinal. Why aren't we learning something?" So he puts the Gettysburg Address up on the urinal, and it was like, it's a weird moment where I was like, I had that exact moment when I started at Game Informer back in like 2010, where I'm like, what? I want to be learning something when I'm looking at a urinal. And so I printed out like all of the presidents in order and the periodic table of elements, and I put those up in front of the urinal. And
wait, are you serious?
Yeah, and it lasted one day before somebody ripped them down and called them stupid. I was like, what?
Is this like a common feeling that y'all have?
Because we have to stare at a wall. At least women get like a little room to look at, but we're just like,
your hands free. You can use your Steam Deck.
Usually the room is a stall though. It's like I'm looking at a door.
Yeah, I know, but
how is a door more enticing to look at than a wall?
Because at least it's a little bit further away, you know?
I will say though, in your defense, sometimes they put posters in those.
I love that. I love a good poster to look at. It's better than a groove in, the tiling.
You know what? I rescind my comment. And also, ever since going to that at the bar we went to for the meetup, I dipped into the gender neutral bathroom they had there. They had a women's and like a gender neutral one. Gender neutral one was disgusting because it was like very like manned up. In the women one, it wasn't like pristine, but I was like, man, y'all, what's going on?
Touchy territory.
I kind of looked at society different after that. I just couldn't handle it.
I get it.
Interesting, because my experience working at a restaurant, it would be, each host of each gender had to go check the bathrooms. And the horror stories from the female hosts.
Oh,
that
really?
is true. I will say,
What?
my brother used to work at Walgreens. He said the women's bathroom was the grossest to clean up. So there's someone needs to do a scientific study on what's going on, because there's a lot of data points kind of flooding that map.
Men are disgusting, and when I'm in public restrooms, I clock every man that does not wash their hands.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot about that.
It is alarming.
A lot. A lot.
You should clock them like this.
It's, you know what I mean? Like it's a family friendly show, I guess. So, those who know. What? Yeah, you got to clean that up right away. It's
Wash your
scary.
hands and wash your Steam Deck.
Yeah. It's like there were actually like lines during COVID because like men were washing their hands for the first time. Like, did you guys experience that? Like,
I guess I didn't notice that.
The other men I know in the world.
I didn't even have soap, so I had to go down the street. So yeah, there was a line at the public bathroom.
What was the actual question? Oh,
do you like Larry David? Azza G writes in and says, "Hey, MinnMax, I've been playing lots of Atari games lately, and it got me thinking how much I prefer those older games to many modern releases. So I've made a simple game for y'all. I picked some recent AAA releases and I'm putting them next to Atari classics. Tell me which is actually just a better game. Don't think too hard about the answers. Just go by gut feelings. Leo, Pong or Suicide Squad?
Suicide Squad.
Huber, Breakout or Avatar Frontiers of Pandora?
Oh, Frontiers of Pandora.
Janet, Missile Command or Super Mario Brothers Wonder?
now why would you give me a one I don't know? I know I don't know what Missile Command is.
Okay, Janet.
I know
Janet,
that I don't know what that is.
I don't know that. Janet, Asteroids or Starfield?
Oh, Asteroids.
Better than Starfield.
Yeah, dude, I did not like Starfield. It was not a good time.
Okay.
That was a lot of hours. I wish I could get back. Like, I'd put those hours into Asteroids all day, every day.
Breakout is particularly high for me, but
Yeah.
I think the other ones, it's like realistically, it's just like you have 2 minutes of fun playing Pong and then you're bored. Versus like Suicide Squad, you get up to 45 minutes of fun.
Pong.
I think-
could play Pong
I think it
all day.
depends on, or do we have to marathon? Because I wouldn't want to play Leo, to your point, I wouldn't want to play a 4-hour session.
It's just about a
Backstory
better
of Pong.
game. It's not about how much fun you have in a session, but just
Yeah, sure.
So Hubert, you'd
Is
say
Breakout like Arkanoid? Is that?
Yeah.
Is he, like,
Yes.
hitting
It's
the...
like the
Yeah.
thing moves in the bottom and the.
Cool.
Yep, Steve Wozniak programmed it.
Ben, what's
You
yours?
know that was in my Apple trivia book.
Was it really?
My house to shout out this week's spiciest interview. My Mac superfan father.
Hell yeah. Let's see, E.T. or South Park Snow Day. Look, I know we all like to dunk on E.T. and the Atari, but I mean, South Park Snow Day is 1 million times a better game than all of these except for Breakout, I'd say. I think Breakout's a better game than South Park Snow Day.
Breakout
Better than
rules,
Pong?
but I'm like
Wait,
an
what?
Avatar stan, so I gotta
Hey,
defend it.
this is a friendly spot. We love Avatar here too, man.
Did you play much Frontiers of Pandora?
Yeah, it's fun. The movement it's so fun to just move in that game.
Yeah, just to be a tall
glad-
guy, especially in the beginning when they just let you just kick the crap or punch the crap out of the humans and you just get to feel like
Yeah.
how tall and empowering it is to be a Navi. No wonder you don't want to go back to your stupid human body.
I will say my Pong stand-up is more so the I don't know if y'all remember that physical one they made. where you
Yeah.
could sit on each end.
That is cool.
That is the one that I would want to play. Because I will say on the screen, it does get old kind of quick. But I feel like when
Sure.
it's physical, it's very, very, very fun.
I just want to confirm, you said the phrase Pong Standum?
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet. Ryan Stanton writes in, they said the discussion a few episodes ago about Michael Jackson's Moonwalker reminded me of another Michael Jackson game with fun trivia. Michael Jackson, The Experience on Nintendo DS replaced the melody of all the songs with vuvuzela sounds if it detected you were playing on a pirated copy of the game.
Whoa.
So it's still Michael Jackson's vocals just over like just vuvuzela sounds. You can look it up. There's a clip online of it. Also, I didn't know this, but Michael Jackson, The Experience on DS, I looked up gameplay for that. It is 100% a ripoff of Elite Beat Agents. It's just that exact like rhythm game gameplay, except it's just a weird chibi Michael Jackson swirling around on the top screen. Remember that the console version of that game? I played it on the Wii, and you open the little Wii case, and in the Wii case, they actually had like the Michael Jackson white glove for you to like put on. Talk about a great pack-in.
It's awesome. What a peripheral.
And I think it was
that is top 10 pack-ins.
and he
for
wore
sure.
every single one for real. Rich wrote in, said, "Hello, Huber, and I guess everybody else." Oh, hello. They say on a recent installment of Bonus Pod, which is our companion show to the MinnMax show that Haley hosts. It's a Patreon exclusive. Thanks everybody for unlocking it. Fun episode this week, all about Pokemon. If you like competitive Pokemon, it's a deep dive into that world. Anyways, Ben mentioned on Bonus Pod that he's still turning down sponsorship emails from Raid Shadow Legends. That game has reached all-time meme status, but I guess that most people in the world have never seen it in action. If you're not familiar with this, Raid Shadow Legends, they send emails, I think, to all outlets, a lot of streamers just offering money to play this bad free-to-play mobile game. I assume Easy Allies is fending this off on a daily basis, offers to play Raid Shadow Legends. Does Blood get all those emails? How does that work?
Yeah, that's Bloodworth. Yep.
But Rich says, but what if, for educational and financial purposes, why not throw playing Raid Shadow Legends into a new show plus bowl and see if it wins? I like this idea of doing that, but not having it be a sponsored thing in any way. Like, because first of all, turning that around in a day is impossible. But I love the idea of just like, we're going to play Raid Shadow Legends for New Show Plus, and we're going to donate money to charity. We're not going to take their dirty money for playing this bad free-to-play mobile game. We'll flip them on their butt.
I love that. Can I ask, if we did Raid Shadow Legends ad, would it be more money than any other ad we do?
I have no idea.
That Raid Shadow ends money.
I think it's honestly
for
dependent
crazy
on
money.
the kind
That's
of
like
deal.
the whole
'cause
business model.
It depends on like what, because a lot of times those deals, especially if you're smaller, which we are larger than like I am as an individual, for instance, it's like, oh, well, you only get the money if like 800 people sign up and it caps
Yep.
at like whatever. So again, maybe bigger creators get more generous packages that have a base cost, but yeah, a lot of times those are sign up based, and it's like, now I'm putting this on you. Like, that's a lot of work. I really want to do the work. So
Let me see, Leo. I've never gotten further than they say, we're looking for you to play an hour of Raid on your YouTube channel, saving the stream on your channel for 1 year at least. So you can't just delete it after 6 months. Placing the widget with download goals plus an on-screen link to download the game in the description of the chat bot, and your creativity to hit the key talking points provided by us. So I don't think they even give a number. We haven't gotten far enough to actually ask about how.
You should give them a number.
Yeah, and then just laugh in their face, say, "Psych, we weren't going to do it anyway."
No, give them a number so crazy that we would do it.
What is that number?
$50,000.
Whatever you think it is, add more to it.
$75,000.
Yeah, that is 0.
Dr. FupWS writes in and says, "This show is cool. Thank you. When are you inviting Man Engage on?" Yeah, somehow Man Engage from Immortality has become our sister outlet. Like every time we do a Twitch stream, we end up just raiding Man Engage because she's always online at the same times. And I guess she enjoyed the interview we did about Immortality a while ago. So yeah, Man Engage, open invitation. I'll try to reach out in the future. I feel bad for not reaching out so far, but that'd be fun to have her on something, or it'd be fun to have her like co-host a Trivia Tower. I think that'd be the right spot for a Man Engage type. Let's see, Phil McCrackup. Come on now. They said, "Hey, MinnMax."
They got you.
They got me so damn good. No missed joke opportunities here. What's something you did when you were younger that you regret? Personally, in elementary school. Okay, you guys, we need to get through this without cracking up ourselves, without smiling. This is a serious thing that he regrets, so it's not funny in any way, and we all need to acknowledge that. What's something you did when you were younger that you regret? In elementary school, I pulled a kid away from a urinal.
Oh God! Why was back to the
I pulled a kid away from a urinal while he was urinating.
Oh my God.
And I regret it to this day. I'm sorry. It's not funny. It's not funny, Phil. There's nothing funny about just...
You folded like the extra family cookout chairs. Man, that was wild.
Wow. It is just
I don't want to see it, but I just...
It's just a funny... Because you know the kid was like, and you're falling away from me.
I guess for that, if we're looking at like really minuscule regrets, one time... So I feel like every school has like milk cartons that have letters on the bottom, like like a small like indentation. It'll have like I don't know. Our milk cartons had like little letters like A, B, C, or D or whatever. Sure. And one thing we would do is look at what letter we got. Nothing came of that. We're just like, oh, what letter do you have? And like that was one of our things. And I was lifting up my milk carton to look at like what was on the bottom, but the milk carton was open, and I was sitting next to my friend, and the milk spilled out, and it like landed all over her pizza. I mean, she got another one, so it's like no harm, no foul. Well, I guess. Harm and foul, but it was fixed by the adults around us. But I feel bad about that. I also regret one time, out of dumb curiosity, I put my hand. I was really young. I put my hand between the, you know, when you open a door and there's like the hinge is open. Oh, I put my hand in there.
No.
And then my brother closed the door, and I was like, damn. But also like, why did you put your hand in there? You're dumb. I was really little, so.
That's visceral.
When I was in high school or like middle school, I actually like high school. So like freshman, sophomore in high school, just a kid buying a game was like a huge deal. You know, you buy one game, you go in the store, you get it. It's like, yes. But to get more games, I had to sell my older games.
Oh,
I have sold.
The deal with the devil.
Yeah, I sold so many
To Satan?
physical games to freaking GameStop.
Oh, what's the difference? Huh?
Yeah.
Oh.
So
No missed joke opportunities here.
We got them all.
Yeah. So I still regret it to this day.
Yep.
There was like a big batch I sold, and then I remember it, like I had done it a bunch of times over the years, and then there was finally one batch that I sold where I regretted it, and then I had never sold a game since. But it was too late. I had sold so many.
I'm with you. Like I sold my original PlayStation. And it's one of those things of like, God, that sucks. But it's like, then again, I don't know. It would just be
Back then you don't know. You're like, oh, PS2's coming out. It's fine.
Yep, exactly. Backwards compatible, Mom. Backwards compatible. Yeah. We're making a fortune. Brad Grenz writes in and says, "Dear Benefer Max." Sure. Please make a note to nominate the Easy Allies Haunted House video for Alone in the Dark as the greatest work of all time for 2024.
Thank you.
Oh, I honestly, I wanted to watch that. Here's my problem. Yeah. I'm not criticizing my name. First of all, my number one problem is not Easy Allies, it's MinnMax, because apparently I've had my lower third for the video version as Kyle Hilliard this entire time. Oh, well.
That's so funny. I'm going to screenshot that after the fact. Thank you for pointing it out. I wouldn't have noticed.
I saw the video. It was like an hour and 40 minutes or something. I was like, what is going on over there? How is it that long for a haunted house tour?
That's something Kyle would say before you change it.
Oh, my daughter. Oh, someone's pulling me away from a urinal right now. I'm Kyle straight up. How is that video so long, Huber? What's going on over there?
How long it is?
Yeah.
There's a shorter version as well.
Oh, really? Oh, I must have missed that. Sorry.
But yeah, it's very long. It was so much fun. That's all I gotta say about that.
So you went to England.
It was the scariest thing I've ever done.
So they set up just an elaborate haunted house themed after Alone in the Dark in England and flew you out there just to go through this haunted house thing and play the game? That sounds great.
Yes. They were fans of Easy Allies, which is the primary reason we got invited, because they just watch Easy Allies content.
Yeah.
Because we were with the big streamers there, like PewDiePie and like other like huge. We're like, whoa, like this is huge. So
that's so sweet.
Yeah,
it's in my queue. I will watch it and enjoy it and love it and embrace it and like it and share it.
It was very scary.
Lorch Durden writes in and says, based on how the spiciest interviews are killing it for New Show Plus, if you're not familiar, every week we let Patreon supporters at the $10 tier vote to choose which new show we create or continue, and that's called New Show Plus. And we tried to do like a Hot Ones style thing a while ago, and it's been mopping up. It's going on its next week. It might be the 5th week in a row that it's won here. Anyways, based on how the spiciest interviews are killing it, what other shows can MinnMax rip off? That's a weird, gross way of putting it. Lorch says,
wow, I have never thought of this before. Let me start to think about it. Okay. I think it would not be nearly as popular, I feel like, with the community, but the first thought I had was Vogue does a series where they have celebrities break down their looks from different points in their career. So I feel like we do that with career/life. It's like, what was and they do it like opening a binder, and it's like, oh, this is what I wore to like, Zendaya. It's like, oh, to Dune 2 or whatever, like the premiere. But for us, it could just be like, oh, this was E3 2019, It's like, oh, this was like whatever. And I feel like that could be kind of cute. But what if we again, I don't think it would pop, but it's kind of fun.
No, that's good. Let's do that next week. Remind me.
Sure, I'll send it out to Die.
No, something will dethrone Space's interview. I was remembering.
Yeah, but let's be honest, it's not this. So
I was thinking like the Derringer in our boot is, we've had to use it in the past, of New Show Plus Mystery Box, where we have an honest to goodness good show, but we're not going to tell you what it is. It's just going to be a mystery box. If you vote for this one, we'll do it. And then you get to find out what it is. But if you don't, we're killing the show and it's never going to go to the poll again. And we're committing to we're not just faking it. And we've done that, I think, a couple times in the past. And there's been ideas that we like, but it's like, okay, this is 100% axed. So I feel like that might have a chance of dethroning Spiciest interview, but...
Well, has it dethroned something before?
It did. It might have been like the first House Hunter Rise run. We had to whip out the mystery box. I don't know. Yeah, but anyways, Lorch says, the best suggestion from Discord that I loved was from Lamb the Holloway in the MinnMax Discord, suggesting that you guys do gamers in cars getting coffee.
Perfect.
Oh, yeah. Cute.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Getting gamer fuel?
Yeah.
I actually love that idea. That's super good.
Okay, I'll write it down.
That is good.
Really good.
Bob Buell writes in and says, do you think Kirby could have a glass of water when he's thirsty? Or do you think that would turn him into like a water-powered Kirby?
I think he can have a glass of water because he eats food. And he doesn't turn into like a cake.
Oh, that's very smart.
Janet's been drinking out of Kirby this whole time.
And he's not water Kirby. That's true. He's just regular Kirby. That's right. And you're not turning into Jabba the Hutt. So yeah, all this lore is breaking down.
Yeah, like what's going on here? It's like, no, this is real. What's happening?
Travis in Fargo writes in, a mysterious stranger appears at your door and makes this offer. And imagine this person, they're like hunched over. They have a cane. It's just basically Jafar's Aladdin disguise. Anyways,
I don't trust him. I got you.
Okay. Well, it makes you this offer. You will receive $10 million right now, but every day for the rest of your life, you must roll a D20 and eat that many hot dogs in the next 24 hours. Do you accept that deal? Oh, this is stupid, Janet.
Tough. I love hot dogs, but eating that many hot dogs every single day,
averaging 10 a day,
it would get so bad you would start to like gag at even the thought of a hot dog.
Yeah,
that is tough. But $10 million is life-changing money.
You know what? I will take it, but then I will invest in hiring someone who's good at rolling, and then I will have them roll for me.
What? That's a thing? What are you talking about?
I don't know. Probably for $1 million, you better get good at rolling. I'm just you buy out of your problems. Get more money, more problems. You're not spending your money right if that's true.
Jesus.
I was
could
so
solve
with
a
you
lot right now.
for a full 95% of that when I thought you were going to somebody who's good at rolling different stuff up into hot dog shape.
That's so much
yeah,
smart.
professional chef.
Why would you think I would? Yeah, to Jeff would do at Irish Chef. Well,
Any
again, there's
substance you wanna
solutions. There's solutions.
Yeah.
10, but averaging 10 a day, realistically, for $10 million.
Is that 10 million cash?
Would you prefer cash?
Like 10 million cash money, no taxes, nothing?
Yep,
Yeah,
right now. Let's say it's cash, yeah. And it's in a fun dump truck, too, that you also get to keep.
Whoa.
I don't want people seeing that at $10 million.
I want the thing.
I want to open a private LLC in a state where you don't need to reveal the name, and then that's where I'm going
Right.
to deposit the money. Give
Right.
that to me direct deposit. I do not want $10 million cash.
Ooh, Starkiller says they'd hire a chef. Yeah, that's kind of...
If you can't change the hot dogs, then this can't
Yeah, you
happen.
probably have
This
to
would
say
ruin your life.
no. I would look into troubleshooting it before giving up. But 20 hot dogs? I don't even think I physically could do that.
Oof, that's rough.
Unless
In
you have a chef
general.
making them out of water.
I would-
Clear tubes in a hot dog bun.
I
You
would
guys ever
pass
been
on
to
this one.
Pink's hot dogs in LA?
How small can they be, the hot dogs? That's the
best.
thing. Pink's hot, I'll add it to the list. No, I haven't been.
Oh,
Check
yeah.
it out.
Pink's is legendary.
Yeah.
Pinks.
Enough for you
Yeah.
to eat 20 of them, or what do you think?
They're really big, so 20, like 2 or 3 there is an insane amount already. But they have like themed dogs. They have like the Lord of the Rings dog is one of my favorites. It's like barbecue sauce and onion rings.
Oh, nice.
the
Oh.
Lord
yeah,
of
I'll
the
check this
Rings.
out.
That's cute. Why barbecue sauce?
I don't know, but it's good, so I'm not complaining.
Well, it's because it's on the rings. They're onion rings that are on the dog.
No, I know,
And
but
the
why is it
barbecue,
barbecue?
it's like the fires of Mount Mordor are.
Oh, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, that's solid.
Lorehound over here.
I'm playing Shadow of War. It comes up.
Woof.
All right, what do y'all like for question of the week?
I did keep track this time. I liked shield, weapon, or armor.
Shield's
going
big.
viral.
Yeah.
Larry David and regrets. Those are my top ones.
Great picks. The fact that Shield unlocked much more of a conversation than I was expecting. I'm leaning Shield, but I'm open.
Yeah, the going viral stuff, like we could have made the main topic of the podcast, I think.
I know that's true.
There's so much there, but that doesn't necessarily make it the best question. I think the shield one is a nice, love a specific one that we've never thought of before.
Hubie?
I like the Larry David one, but I'll go with the Shield one as well. That's real good.
All right, Adam Baroonkar, congratulations. You won the Super Mario Brothers 7-inch vinyl from I'm 8-Bit, and now it's time for something that we like to call Get a Load of This.
I thought you said it was a Vampire Survivors vinyl, and that's why I...
It was.
Oh, really?
It was.
I thought you were just like...
that was the plug, and then the giveaway is the other one.
Okay.
Yeah. No, you're cool, man. You're cool.
Okay, good.
Hey, Lou, you got something we should get a load of?
Get a load of this, why don't you?
No.
It goes a little something like this. This is old news to a lot of real heads out there. The Falador Massacre. A moment in RuneScape history that I only just read about recently. It's a point in RuneScape's history early on, happened to be on 6/6/2006, where after an in-game house party at a community member's house, you can play fight there, combat's on.
Yeah.
Somebody got into a fight, got ejected, and due to a glitch in the game, the people who got ejected into Falador could still PvP in this safe shop zone. And so they killed hundreds and hundreds of players until it got shut down and they got banned for taking advantage of it. But it's become a lore event in RuneScape's history. They talk about the Falador Massacre.
That's fun.
And
Get a load of this.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He was that's called a dramatic pause for effect.
Yeah, have some respect, Hubert. Come on. We lost our lives.
Let us breathe after he brings up a massacre.
I have 3 more paragraphs here.
He's like, let's speed this along. Jeez, blah, blah, blah.
Get a load of this, though. Game Informer, incredible magazine, incredible website, incredible employees as well. We were playing Batman Dark Tomorrow the other day for the very first time.
Yeah.
And get a load of this. Game Informer reviewed this game. They gave it a 0.75 out of 10.
Scientific.
This has got to be the lowest score I've ever seen a game get anywhere ever.
Ooh, I think we've got lower at Game Informer. I'm trying to remember, but the other's I love how specific that is.
Do you agree with the score?
Yeah, was it bad?
It was terrible. So bad. Like one of the worst games for sure.
I love it. Get a load of this. This is an odd one, but I recently went to Decorah, Iowa. It's like a small, really cute town in Iowa. It's just lovely. I love checking it out. And there's like a Norway museum there that we went through because we're big old dorks. And they had a whole section about like Norwegian immigrants, which were my ancestors and all this stuff, so I can dunk on them. But it was interesting, just a lot of like letters about them talking about like, you know, should we move to America? What's it going to be like? All this stuff. And it told the story of one person who in the 1820s was moving to America from Norway. But they're like, okay, well, I guess I need to bring like a millstone with me and along with my clothes and all this stuff because he didn't know if there were going to be rocks in America. So he lugged this stone all the way to America. And I was like, oh, God damn it, there's rocks here. But it's such a good, specific way of looking at like, just like the level of information. Like everyone's like, yeah, there's a land of opportunity. I'll go there. But like, I have no idea what's going to be on the other side of the world. To the fact that like, I don't
Can't Google it.
Yeah. Are there rocks on this side of the planet? I have no way of knowing. I guess I'll plan ahead. Anyways. Shout out to immigrants. There we go.
Before I do my get a load of this, I want to shout out I Am Leafeon saying Shrek Fairy Tale Freakdown or something for the Game Boy Color had a 0.25 on Game Informer. It actually had a 0.5. So you can go to GameInformer.com/legacy reviews and see like I presume these are reviews that just you can't read anymore, but like exist.
Yeah.
And there were several 0.5s. I did not do the Control F to see if there's like a 0.2. You know, I didn't go lower because it's really long. I don't have the time to.
I'm sorting by score that is the lowest. It was also given to Kabuki Warriors, Aiden Chronicles, The First Mage, Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker.
Another Batman
Got
game.
even lower.
Wow.
Ooh,
so there you go.
The Mummy on PS1 also got a 0.75. That couldn't have been that bad, right? Somehow Extreme Bull Rider got a 0.8. I didn't even think they did that in their review score. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, there's some wild stuff in there. But
so good.
Get a load of this. Mine is, why did it go away? Give me a second. There we go. Mine is from Crossplay. This is my Remap colleague, Patrick Klepek, does a Substack called Crossplay that examines like kind of gaming through the lens of like parenthood and children. So that's like the angle. And there was an article, this is very relevant to if you're deep in the MinnMax content and you saw the iconic SGF vlog from last year that featured also our Nintendo World vlog. You know, you see us go to like Super Nintendo World, all of that.
Yeah.
And this was so interesting to me as someone that doesn't have kids and hasn't like taken kids to theme parks. The title of it is Super Nintendo World was very cool, but featured a surprising amount of children crying. And the subtitle is, I did not anticipate our Nintendo theme park adventure would involve failure. And it's related to an ongoing problem with Nintendo's own games. And I didn't really think about that. Like, and Leo, I don't know if I'm oblivious, but I didn't really notice like if there were kids or not. I was zoned in on the content, and also you
pushed a lot of kids down as you were going towards the game.
Yeah, we were creating the tiers, but just to be really brief on like what the article touches on, and for people who didn't go to Super Nintendo World, they have like these like mini games, like physical mini games you can play, and you get in line for them, and it's stuff like, oh, use your power-up band to like hit the block at the right time, so the Koopa like dies or whatever, and that's like, yay, you got your points, and you can fail at those, and if you fail, you have to like just go to the back of the line again, and it kind of gets into like sometimes parents are allowed to help, but sometimes not, and then like kids will be really upset because they're trying and they're so small, they're trying to turn the crank, and I'm like, yeah, this is stuff that like I obviously thought about the child aspect of Super Nintendo World because like in the vlog we talked a lot about how this seems like it's not really like that interesting for adults, like maybe a kid would like it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting to see the faults and the follies it has even on that kid angle, and it's something that I just never really thought about because I was there as an adult. So interesting read.
Interesting. From our perspective, it seemed like they were designed to be unfailable, but that's like the adult's perspective, and even them being failable to kids is like a lose-lose, it feels like, for both demographics.
Hey, get a load of this from the Discord, which you get access to at the $2 tier on Patreon. We have a whole channel dedicated to people sharing good tidbits, good things from around the internet. Wombology shared this video from one of my favorite YouTube channels, Corridor Crew. We've talked about them before. They do the VFX breakdowns that, God, I think it was like last Christmas break. I just watched like 5 years of those back to back. And just, oh my, it's just the best popcorn YouTube. And anyways, they have a video out that's called This Invention Made Disney Millions and Then They Lost It, which is the best headline you could have for a YouTube video.
Whoa.
But it's awesome, where it's all about the sodium vapor process, which was a technique used in Mary Poppins and other old Disney films. That was basically green screening before green screens, before computers. This is Mary Poppins, was that early 60s, late 50s? But the basic idea is it's using yellow lights and sodium vapor and a special crystal in the camera to split the signal. It's just cool, very specific wild tech. But there's a reason that they're able to key things to such an incredible degree in Mary Poppins, because the part that they couldn't wrap their minds around when they did the VFX React thing is like, okay, chroma key, we got the green screen, you remove that stuff. But in Mary Poppins, they're wearing like veils and they're like perfectly keyed with the background. And they're also like moving around and dancing, and like the motion blur is perfect, which is really tough to do on a green screen if you're just keying that stuff out. And so it turns out it was this old process, and they made a new way of doing this process that hasn't been done for decades. And then they tested it out and showed all the things they can do that green screens can't. And it's just a super cool little bit of film history. And it's just awesome that they actually got it up and running, and seeing these VFX guys be amazed by like, this is better than a green screen. So there's,
love that.
Yeah, there's links below for all this stuff if you want to check it all out.
Sick.
All right, that's it for this episode of the MinnMax Show podcast. Thanks everybody for watching or listening. Huber, thanks for being here, sir.
Always, it's such a pleasure. Such awesome conversations with you every time.
Oh, so sweet. Anything you want to plug over there at Easy Allies or anywhere else?
We did not talk about Darkest Dungeon 2
Oh,
getting announced
yes.
at the AAA Initiative, and I'm offended.
Yes, I had it
So I'm
highlighted.
gonna shout that out.
Yep, that's true. So it's like it's free DLC that's out now for, or no, it's coming out later in 2024 called Kingdoms, which is a new game mode. Sorry, man. I highlighted it and then I forgot to bring it up. We got a lot to unpack in this episode. But sweet, let's see. Trivia Tower
Janet's
stuff.
raising her hand.
Yes, Janet, please.
Yeah, sorry. I forgot to put in Slack, behind the scenes. Like, I forgot to say, like, I want to plug something.
I forgot to put it there myself.
Oh my God, damn. So now I could have got you if I just didn't reveal my hand. This is like when I said, hey, Ben, I'm going to be late. And then you were later than me. I'm like, why did I tell you I was going to be late?
No, it was a disaster. It was a disaster.
God, I keep playing myself with honesty. I don't know when I'll learn. But my plug is to check out my website, pen2pixels.com, because a week or two ago, I put up a Visions of Mana preview that I never got a chance to talk about it on the show. So check that out. And then I will be posting really soon my Botany Manor review. So if you want to hear more about that game, whether it's because you want to play it, because you don't want to play it and just want to hear about it,
Sure.
check that out. It should be dropping soon. Things have been tough because I've recovered from my wisdom tooth surgery. So I've been slowly getting it together, but I'm hoping to post it this week.
Sweet. That sounds good. Yeah, let's see. Next episode of Trivia Tower, happening April 22nd. Huber has hosted the last three like a real champion. We'll have an update on Trivia Tower moving in the future. Long story short is Huber's going to be hosting episodes of Trivia Tower in the future. We're probably going to be swapping back and forth every once in a while, shaking up the normal hosting lineup for Trivia Tower.
Sweet.
I am hosting this episode, which is happening April 22nd, but I'm hosting it because I want to break it, is the idea. That's the way I pitched it to Huber. So we're going to try doing a special episode of Trivia Tower called Trivia Tower Blitz coming up April 22nd. So it's going to be a shorter episode than normal, also faster. So if you just watch it on YouTube and you don't compete, this might be more up your alley because we're not going to filibuster in between questions. F the cooldown, we say. We're just charging ahead and rapid firing these questions and thanking the mods for hopefully being able to keep up with all that stuff. And
No friends.
we should point out that the special guest co-host is going to be the fastest man in the game industry for this episode on April 22nd. One Jeff Grubb? Interesting how that works.
Wow, what's beef, right?
Yeah, so he's going to be joining us as the co-host for April 22nd's
Predetermined?
episode. Yeah, predetermined. Yep.
Yeah. Controversy noted. No.
Controversy noted. So jump into the $2 tier on Patreon, help support independent games media, and also compete in that shaking up the Trivia Tower format. You only have to get 3 questions correct to win the whole thing this time around. So it's going to be a different cup of tea for folks.
It's a trap.
And the trick is also, if you just get 1 question correct, you get a code. Normally you have to get 2. You have to make it to the 3rd floor, but this is just, we're skipping the 2nd and 4th floors, so we're flying, baby.
So generous.
Also, just a reminder, if you jump in this week on Patreon at any tier, even that $2 tier, we'll send you an Xbox code. Spiciest interview we have up on YouTube now. If you want to see me and Leo in the studio eating some spicy chicken wings. How was that being in the hot seat, Leo?
It was so great. It was just a great conversation. I was really proud of that as a piece of content as I was driving home.
Oh, good. Yeah, it is fun. And it's nice. You know, a while ago, I was thinking about like, oh, is this a Patreon goal that, you know, we do like MinnMax interviews, but with all the cohorts or whatever? Then a Spiciest interview is just that. It's just like a nice way to get to know people that maybe you think you know. But if you watch those Spiciest interviews things, I promise you'll learn something about absolutely everybody. Like, you know, we talked about it before, but the fact that Leo and Kelsey during their Spiciest interview discussion found out that they went to the same Aquabats show on that tour. It's like, how would that ever come up? It's such a
specific.
weird. I know.
Yeah.
But let's see. We have, thanks to Charles Hart, who's helping out with some video editing, we have a best of up on MinnMax's YouTube channel. So if you just listen to this podcast and you're like, I know they do some video stuff, some streams, I don't really know what that crap is. That's fair. Look, I'm mainly a podcasting man myself. I get it. But we are going to be doing quarterly highlight reels for your viewing pleasure. So if you go to MinnMax's YouTube channel, you can check out MinnMax Highlights, which is covering the first 3 months of 2024, and it's doing it all in under 30 minutes. And so just the best bits if you want to jump in and watch that one. So shout out to Charles Hart for editing all that fun stuff.
Great video. So glad he's doing that. I somehow missed that Haley legitimately vomited from fear in the PT stream.
Yeah, that didn't make the cut. I think it's in the extended version for people to $10
We have a lot
here.
of like
but
vomit content that ends up. Gotta hope we don't draw the wrong kind of audience.
It's kind of part of our brand.
We're often throwing up on this.
It's going to be great.
Content.
But again, thanks everybody for watching and listening to this episode. Thank you to everybody at the $50 tier, the Game Champion tier over there on Patreon. You can pick any game, be declared its champion. Like Procyon number 6 is the champion of Ghost of Tsushima. Joshua Ayers is the champion of One Piece Pirate Warriors 4. Malcolm Holliday is the champion of Berserk Boy. Michael Berry, the official champion of War of the Monsters. Great pick, dude. All right, that's it for this episode. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll be back next week. Be good, have fun, let's go.